Do you guys need
Sir?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, can you take a look at the requested teaching? What pages? Offering mandala. Yeah, there.
Mandala offering prior to requesting teachings?
Yeah.
Title of it is on page 4, and then the practice begins on 5.
Good. All so that Dambo today. Shamba Dambo, choose sugar the marchi, tombstone chick at his own Jida. Mandala offering.
So we'll first offer the mandala and request for the teachings.
Could you give me this one first one?
Yes.
One more time here. Okay. I'm going to read it first Tibetan we here. Rinjia la so se yen jube a zo lu da yen lom ju nang gen ju ba da ge zo ram ja sang wen ju ba cha yin mi ba la ma yin ba wai ji a to mi an ko wan chan be ma jun ro lam no ra yang se ji le ja ba ma re em be ma ji sa be se tan be chu ji ju me ba de so re de sim ga wai ja ye ram nyen ma do zhen zhe go cha ra gui xie liang ai yi se me ba zhe jian san mo dan bei qu lan jiu bai xia. Okay, read the English now.
All collected outer offerings, such as jewels,
my body, enjoyments, and all inner offerings, all collected virtues and infinite secret offerings, without attachment, we offer to the Guru, to protect mother beings endlessly wandering in samsara from the dangerous cliffs of mistaken paths, and dispel darkness of unknowing ignorance. Please light the lamp of holy Dharma. With a mind of faith intoxicated with bliss, putting on the armor of irreversible perseverance, with singly focused body, speech, and mind, I shall practice profound holy Dharma.
Oh, that's not the shit. Tusum Sanji Tam Ji Jing O Ri Dan Jing Ho Jam Su Chap Da Ga Ding Chong Ba Mi Be Ban Gong Zhen Jian La Ma Dan Be Xian Jie Du Ri Zhi Ma Mi Ba La Ngo Be Ra De 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 Ge Be San Ca Xin Jia Sun Jiu Ji Sen Jie La Ba Ran Zhe De So Ni Jie Jin Bo Zui De Ni Me Xian Song Ne Mo Lam Jin Bo Ngap Jia Da Be Ga Dang An Zhe De Sen Me Do Dun Ba Tu Jie Jin Lang Gui Sa An Ca Ni Dao Jin Be Pa Ye Li Man Zhe Lo Zhe Jin Be Ju Gun De Ni Trapa Jimbe Jabra Jiang de Loza Jimbe Shabla Soan de Nimte Jimbe Garazi Kapje Jimbe Lama Nibarante Tsunde Jimbe Rebe Jansin Reba Jimbe Shabla Soan de Tiba Jimbe Rincho Yonsus Saja Jimbe Toba Under Jen Tele Jimbon Kata Nyambarada Nyingom Jimbe Shabla Soan de Tamba Nala Kupe Sotam de Rubji Tinsin Chona Shabde Jin Timbarinchi Sojar Jibat Jiktin Gele Jimbo Jabar Sho Shibsen Kalan Chirab Jeng Origin Zebe Donder Zelin Apo Jarbe Timba Kune Sanzeba Kagyu Rinpoche Gusan Sa Batin Dorjin Chawa Rekon Chabda Lama Kalma Ba Jinkoro Kunje June Sije Pamjo Yedan Namjor Ma Chele Kunje Sibo Wanje Chujong Pechi Jamda La Namjo Zije Gupen De Don Rami Tuje Chongwa Anzu Jawa Kunje Ziji Shi Ke Jide Duba Kari Takarawa Bajo Jikti Wazo Tribe Gang Kapsum Do Lamarang Gusan Sa Balin Zawa Lamarum Bochi Dagi Chiwor Peme Di Yola Kadin Chimbe Gone Jizong De Kosong Tuje Ngöndro Zade So Yonde Sanje Kondan Nyamna Yang Kadin Sanje Konye Lakbengo Zawa Lamme Shabla Soan De Dason Do Lona Chuse Chong Kanda Sopje Tonggen Jikti Na Deshi Lomar Chuba Kanso Da Tinder Dumbe Shujen Chembe Nibarande ba tam jen der she namo arya tam ba lai ke da lo ta nu jin ke trum da da me ke nam da ro ko je tanam je cham ba tham je ke da ke chue de an do ma jun ro na ko ta da nyam be sim jin tham je si je dong an ta da le dar de nam ro tin je de wa la na me ba yang da ba zo ba san je ko ma ro bo ji de ni je ne jang to ba sha 다 대치의 담배 추사몬드니 최진의 냠설랑 신의 냠설랑 바 지오 냠바고네 신차르시 다대 네 다공직 땅인 바 샴발라 대치가 마치 라야이는 거니 줄라
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space and knowledge of all things, beautiful thousand-fold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of the Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. Lama Karmapa, glorious Vajradhara, Lord of all Buddha families, Yidam Yogini, bliss of existence and peace, source of all mandalas. Dharmapala, Mahakala Yabyun, creator and controller of all existence. This yogi bows with single-pointed reverence, care for us with compassion, never parting. All Buddha's great love collected together in a body of wisdom, white as a snow mountain. Supreme Arya Nirmanakaya, Lord of the world, three realms of beings, Guru, prostration to you. O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me in your great kindness. Please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind, equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my root Guru, O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you who have become disciples of the Sugātas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of Devas, Nagas, and Yakshas, languages of Kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist. In every language I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
Hola so, tatrin machu 다 Manjushri Dharma Center ke corporate down any Kagyu Ngöndro Tony ma chushe si jusonwa de ani ngarang ge kingune na pe kawa zambo sunam chimbo de chilang ngi chi ku yosi de zane ani pe kawa shon si tu chi nansi.
So today at Manjushri Dharma Center, we're going to have explanations of the Karma Kagyu preliminary practice teachings. And for my part, I feel very fortunate and blessed, full of merit to be able to give these teachings. And so I'm very happy to do so.
다 드린도 전에 남주가 추세야 돼. 아니 다 가르치던 아주 추냠린 시그 요리시도 전에 추냠린세야 돼. 추세야 돼. 별거게라 추세가 요리들 고주치 뭐요. 가르치도 추냠린 시그 제도 추 주주당와 체도 냠린 시그 요리시. 다 다마시야 돼. 추라 고고 요리 추세야 돼. 주주당와 체라 고고 아인데 전에 다들 학고야 돼. 뺏겠지 모르겠지.
So in our practice of Dharma, the Sanskrit word, for which the Tibetan word is chu, it means to bring about transformation, transformation of our mind, and that's very important to understand.
강 주주 단주 당 강기 주주 단지 강 주주 단거리 시도잖아 나란도 심진 탐지 강기 주주 단거리 시도잖아 담배추 간지 세네 주주 단거리 시도잖아 담배추 체 냠서 림바 체도 림바지 그 람린로네 다 주주 땅네 간데 연구요리 시도잖아 아니 코와 동하게 점서치 뭔들 단네 타도 랑기 yin simjin tamche jang hoa le dar thungin chik o de de zane gang juju danza gangza rani gang gi juju dangwa danzi de dambe chu ani gande si juju dang gor se de chu nyamni se zun se juju dang cha de gande yong gor se de zane dambo rani hoa le do ni yin hoa le dawa o de ji yong yo se.
So what is it that's to be transformed? All sentient beings, all living beings, and particularly oneself. Oneself. And what is it that does the transformation? It's the Holy Dharma. So how does Holy Dharma transform us? By practicing it, by putting effort, joyful effort into its practice. And what is the result of that transformation? It's liberation from the round of cyclic suffering existence without choice, and the attainment of a state in which we ourselves can liberate other beings from that round of suffering.
Ordinary. Tindingutani Chu Sidang Mashivaina, Chu Sidang Mashivaina, Lo Mambo, La Chula Nyamni se. Any Tumde Kaya don't you maybe resource can do it, Kaya Melichi. Logic in Anda, Dawachi in Anda, always the same person. The Nichix de Devaina, Yabo Yomaris. The Indutane, they can't the go to cities and choose Sip Tablan Kebaji. Yamni Sip Tablan Keba. Tate pay Massicati more easy.
So for this, we need to know how to practice the Dharma. If we don't really know how to practice it, it won't bring about that transformation. And if we practice even for long periods of time, for months and years, and we don't change, doesn't bring any transformation to us, it means that we are mistaken in our manner of practicing the Dharma. So we need to become skilled in knowing the method of how to actually practice the Dharma.
Today, but Tela, what's a Kagyu Balke, Chu Mujale, Ngöndro Sap Song, the Tsikji. 슝의절래죠. 문로 삽시야.
That's why we say in our Kagyu lineage that compared to the main practice, the preliminary practices are even more profound.
근데 전에 또 몸보지게 추냠는 시시데 통보지를 냠네. 토사지를 너는 맹치보 라마직보 라마치보가 맹. 아니 대게 아니 순주들 아니 사자침보세한다 적바침보세한다 아니 주세한다 포아세한다 식스나로 요가세한다 맹직보 깔라차라세한다 다들 왕다 맹직보 드르기 지수당네 basic ngone ke ngachu ta tatang chu munro sia tisu korteni nan chung na tang ma yok ne ni jikpo ko thola yan ron de chi ko wasi te nor go yo is de sia yo ma re is.
So it's the tendency of people, in talking about the practice of Dharma, to speak about the exalted highest practices and to give the name of their Lama as being someone very renowned and important and of high realization, and that they're doing practices with them of Ma Mudra, great perfection, Dzogchen, of transference of consciousness, the chip cutting practice, the transference of consciousness, and so on. And these preliminary practices, they get sort of disregarded and not paid much attention to. And this is a really very mistaken way of approaching practice.
남주들 지야 요 말에 시장주 주야보 냠리시 세나 흥도다 개침보레스.
So when you practice, please don't act like this. Put primary emphasis on these practices of the preliminaries.
다 대인도 전에 당같이 남주 다단내 갑기를 가져라이나 루셈라 둥하르 강하르 하저만 보지 당같이 시대 말이 지연 잡을래나 요리 락바도 소소를 호와래 인찬이 정도 강할만 보지 둥할만 보지 락바도 생나 강한만 보지 요대 말이 따때 가르 강하도 저거 요리 지듯잖니 강하대 뉴몽 락바대게 되차 시당 또뭐 ngaja 차도라서 반디 뉴몽 락바대 그저거 요리 디 뉴몽 락바대 담보대 좀다.
So we know that in the world there are a lot of problems, a lot of sufferings, a lot of misery, and also in our personal lives we experience a lot of difficulties, suffering, especially mental suffering. And what is it that brings about this, causes this suffering? It's the strong delusions, or the gross delusions in our mind of clinging attachment, anger, aversion, hatred, ignorance, confusion, jealousy, pride, greed, and so on, these kinds of things.
That is. Tati nyumong rakpa te la kapte cha gowa ina nyumong rakpa te kapte cha li tapsi te nyumong ki nyimbo te kawane yongo yori si te chane nyumong korang ka rakpa te nyimbo te la nga chu tate lodo namba yasi ya te kare yongo yori si te chane yola chakpa chi ya ane mada pala takpan chi ba da mi pala dadan chi ba te lokpa shi ba ka lok te ke ane nga chong kawa la chinga yorwa sanje ka tambo nini da yo ma re 다라지 드바 요 말이 세게 나츠티 로든 진당 시절로 로든 로드 다라지 드반 진바 되게 강하지 디토니 열라 아니 마타바리 참아 마타바리 나츠 딱바리 삼바타 데 뎀바리 데 딱바리 삼바 마타발라 딱반지바 다미발라 다든지바 아니 마짱와라 짱와는지바세 사제 좀 되는데 십수추 용서 줘봐 용수 쪽바 참아 쪽바리지 쪽바시 되잖아 다 가르치 그래 뭐라 이도 말어 봐 뭐다 봐 인도잖아 콘 ngöndro tela lebe chuchi tende chin de chane dembe mada ba ta medimbe jumana jiri si ta ngaju tela changwa tende che ga lo sinje lo pa nga sol tende linje le shogde yo sanje ga gang mazi so ya de ji ning ga mari so ya de ani nga cho ga de dok so ga to ni ti dok so ga to ni opposite se ga ra sim de ti to ni ro ko yo ta de nga chu kan de sin ju chu tang ga to ti lo de当mun ro ko lo ko na ni dang bo ta ju ko de nga xie ge mun ro ko lo ko na ni ni ye ge ye si.
So if we were to counter these rough, strong delusions in our mind, we need to contemplate these preliminaries, which in one context are characterized as being practices which reverse our inclinations. And how so? Because we cling to a true self. Buddha from the very beginning explained that the image of an inherently existent self is not correct, and yet we cling to that. And on top of that, we cling to it as being permanent. That our self has this kind of permanent aspect, unstatic aspect, which again, Buddha explains is not the case. There's a constant change, transformation going on. We don't remain the same for even an instant. And on top of that, then we grasp to things that are actually impure as if they were pure. So how are these things impure or contaminated? Well, it comes back to that misperception of them as being truly existent or inherently existent. We contaminate them by believing that they are inherently existent and they are truly existent. And so as long as we are captivated by these misconceptions of self and of permanence and of the purity of what we seek, then we will be subject to these kinds of problems and sufferings. And so, how do we go about reversing those misperceptions? It's by practicing these preliminaries, which I'm about to explain.
Tati di zane namju nga chu lo la nga shig mari samni ke takpa ke ni motila ani mata ba lo kon ko ri si ani nga chu tambo de la ote yong do sanji chom tin de ke ya tambo den ba shi na ni tambo ni ni dong har den ba so yuri dong har den ba ke nang de ni tambo de la dong har den ba chi chu ye she de tambo de la dong har den ba nang ni na si ni mata ba si ya de le ko yuri ta de le pe ko ji chi mo ji.
So we always think, I'm here, and we never really think about how we will die, how we're subject to death. We don't contemplate impermanence. But Buddha, in the very beginning of his teachings, he taught, through sufferings and within subdivisions of that, impermanence. In the very beginning of his teachings, he explained impermanence.
Wala so ta de la tambo de la ngöndro ko chu de la ngöndro ko chu ji xie ge yo ta dang a chu na ngöndro ko chu se ya de la jiong ko ton ngöndro ko chu se ya de ani san cha wa dang ani me dang be ya dang yi jan de ba dang ani lam nam jo gong ba ta di ye la je dang ngöndro ko chu sin di na nin do cha de la de ko yo de ngöndro ko chu de la yang ngöndro ko chu ji ya de 티 ngöndro ko chu gang na ya 티 ngöndro ko chu de la ani damjo ni bar ka wa che ma da ba le jum de khore ni me si lo do number yes ya de ngöndro ko chu na ni ngöndro ko chu de xiang yi.
So these preliminaries they do consist of practices of making prostrations and offerings, and offering the mandala, reciting the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva, practicing Guru Yoga. But on top of that, the main subjects to be contemplated in the preliminaries are how rare and precious this human life is and how much potential it has, how difficult it is to obtain, and how it's subject to impermanence and death, and how the law of karma, the natural law of karma operates, understanding that, and then thinking about the drawbacks and the great problems that are encountered in the round of cyclic existence of samsara. So these are the preliminary contemplations by which we reverse those negative or destructive kinds of misconceptions.
Datila Tambotila any Tamjoni Barkawas, Maranzo Mailutinte. Jin Roa, Rick Trukanani, Mailutinte, Zachishu, Gay Chishu, Nuba Chishu. Lutina, any Tamjoko Chuch object at the Mamilumbo chase. Singutina, any Nambala Jiva in a Singutina, Tatepa Nambasum, Yichikatepa, Madopatepa, Dangatepa, the Dichikatepa Nambasum Singutola Yua, Lugatoni, Tamjoko Chuch object at the Mamilumbo Chi, Toaina, Tatengune Tane, the Yvin Nor, Tabata, Hajani Barkawachi race. So
again, the first of these major points to contemplate are the difficulty of obtaining the precious human life, human rebirth. So in the course of cycling through samsara, there are many different life forms, 6 kinds that are mentioned, and out of all of these, it's the human form with propensity for Dharma, which is seen as to be the most precious, the most rare to obtain, the most powerful, the most full of potential, both in terms of the mind and the body that it possesses. And in terms of the mind, particularly faith, different kinds of faith, faith of conviction, conviction in the truth of the teachings, an irreversible faith, faith of aspiration, these kinds of states of mind are really what makes the human life especially precious and full of potential, and its support is having the human body. So to have such a body and mind with all the leisures and enjoyment and riches of what's called the precious human life and how difficult it is to obtain is the first major contemplation.
Tadi Mulitin the top chadu, Tati Jurumbo Degrevesina, any Jurumbo Degrevesina, Jurumbo Degamaris, Tangatin Tonchu Latin song, Tanimari Ringanimaka Shiguri. The name Basontan Tonchu was a part of Salatadilla Mabushi and the Mabushu Magwachani. The name Basontan Nibatilani, Simatapasi at the Lapius. Niram Matapari, Jim Matapari, Suna Nutu Yonzo Pachatan Mataparis. In Imagilang Tama Shiguri, Siat, and Chua Matapasiat.
So once we've attained such a precious human life as this, will it last a long time? No, and we have no idea, when, how quickly it will be lost. We will all die, and to be aware of this, it's something that's very obvious. We every day, how many people die. We're very much confronted with this. We can be very sure that this is the case. So we will all die. It's almost Chigres.
Hamajimajal Shigris or Dandrison.
Dollars.
Tati Inditani, the Yugatene. Tangazo Tendichi Yunguyuna, Tangazu Karichi Gorisia, Twasos down, Tangazu Karichi Gori. Tangazo top Juno may let in Haja Tharchin Boji top Tarja. They didn't imagine the Shan Shadow. 당아주 가르치 거리시. 다 소술 좋았다.
So then we ask ourselves the question, what should I do about this? I have such a precious life form. I'm definitely going to die. I know not when. What should I do about this?
다데니 이두자니 텔라 아니 레줌데시아테. 티 유트네. 레줌데시아테 용요. 레줌데시아테. 레줌데시아 나한테네.
That's where the natural law of karma comes in, the next major point to contemplate.
레줌데시아테 가르시게 요리시드자네. 가좀 매일 리팅지 랑찬이 정도 야보소 거리시. 독자소야 요 말이시.
So once we've attained such a precious human life, this life form, this basis for life, we need to use it well. We need to not use it poorly.
다들 레 줌데시아들 티측니들 레 줌데시아들 nd시 잠나 하정 망보자요. 도도시드 산지 좀 된데게 득바치양 무자신 게완 푸숨 초바르치 랑그셈네 용순들 드네 산지 땜바인시 다 디나한테는 차장 넘자요. 득바치양 무자신 세야되게 아니 얘는 누이지니가 말이지. 얘는 누이지 라마다 말합세바이나 주라 첸들라 주라라 타마시 바용리 제가 스마추랑이 손은 도그리시. 득바치양 무자시 게완 푸숨소 대 요거드네 게완 푸숨소 바치 거리시. 다티 얘는 마치리 차블라 얘는 로과치 거리시. 핀바시 거리시. 핀바시와 얘는 가리 연구시드 자네 대란 통춘 요조를 레당 렘데 리다 얘는 요조를 레다 레 넘버 송고 토니 통춘 요조를 레라 지완 들 추랑라 첸들 체르와다 네메바 무스든지 연구 요리시. 지와 지말라 추랑 아니 라다 메일루티 잠보 더지 토고 요리시. 레 줌데시아데 대과치야 무사기 게완 푸숨 소바시. 티 주거든 가르치 거시다 다른 드라차보다 나 드라차보 집어게 출을 차기요 말와 르르친 드라차보다 나다는 자화리 라마린 켄포리 게피시 라마다 켄포 rumbo치세요 드라차보 근데 그만 다 센데 게치 모래 이스그리 센 주주다네 랑게 센네 용순 들으셔야 되게 고집배치 모이다 나케게 nes야 되게 센들레 마톤 들고 말이세요 그 책이다 센들 차와이나 류안 던도거리 나안 던도거리 랑게 센네 용순 들세야 나 그거 너들라 하자 고지치 뭐요 베베치라 근데 이제 자니다 domsek다 티나 된다고요.
So the words in Tibetan are le gunde, karmic cause and effect, and there's a tremendous amount of meaning contained in that, those three syllables. What Buddha says about it, it can be summarized when he said, commit not the slightest harmful act, engage in performing perfect virtue. As for your mind, subdue it. This is the teaching of Buddha. So, as for the first line, commit not the slightest harmful action. It's harmful actions of body, speech, and mind that bring us suffering and problems in this life and in future lives. And Buddha says to perform perfect virtue, then he means through our actions of body, speech, and mind, to act in ways that are beneficial, that are helpful, constructive, that create the causes for happiness. And that will contribute to our having a long, healthy life in this life and in the future, again, having precious human life and all good things in our evolution. And in the third line he says, and as for your mind, thoroughly subdue it. And the words in Tibetan begin sem ni, and Rinpoche is pointing out that this word ni is very important, powerful in Tibetan. It's like saying, as for the mind, pointing out the importance of the mind, because it's the mind that's behind all the actions of body and speech as well. So if the mind is positive, that will bring positive actions of body and speech to it. So it's showing the prime importance of the mind in this practice of making one's actions accord with the natural law of cause and effect.
Oh yeah, that take any lodo number years that in any day, any take it. I'm joining you back about same double legend. 땅 콜이 믹스야 돼. 콜와기 믹스야 돼. 땅 콜와시야 돼. 삼사라시 되잖아. 콜와시야 돼. 자치 뭐지 거야 유리. 저 땅가랑 저 첸디 콜와들 템저 주니 그 토니 마릭바니 zon데 가시 그 파드 시와 그 파드 콜와시야 땅. 아니 티 템저 주니 티 줄티네 마게와사 야르테 키와 스마. 아니 니 송나지 야라서 봐. 첸다 땅 키와 스마라서 봐라 동한 망보지 강한 망보지 냥데선 코욕 시나ян다. 아니 랑그 풍봉에 뒤베 중앙에 뒤베 용서 줘봐. 차창지라 아니 콜와시야 되지라 거고요. 이시.
And then the fourth of these major points that reverse our inclinations is contemplating the sufferings of samsara. And so there are many ways to contemplate this, including the 12 links of interdependent origination, that show how karma works in detail to cause sufferings in this life and in future lives, and how by taking on these aggregates of being, including bodies that are composed of the elements, is a basis for all kinds of suffering. And so really contemplating that the nature of samsara, being trapped in an existence that is full of suffering, is that final contemplation that reverses our tendency, and through which we develop a wish to be liberated from that round of cyclic existence.
Tate ngoptu norde indi chani ta tel jirum bo chike je dani chimboke lamso namsun nana damjoni ka chila lomi pe yila kombe chindi na she do lemde mlhang khol dongha na yang sambe sim na she do de tar kombe khol pcho la yi mo ki chik cha ya me che sing nim chi kong de tharpa tu ni lo shong na te ching jong chi ba la sa te te na de pa pe masi ya bo chi de la ko je chi bo yo de wa chi o te chi do te ma chi song ya na.
So in talking about this subject, the great master Tsongkhapa, in his 3 principles of the path, said it this way. He said, precious life is rare and lasts not long. Knowing this stops clinging to this life. Knowing karma's infallibility and samsara's pain stops attraction to future lives. Knowing this, when you do not want samsaric happiness for even an instant, when day and night aspire to freedom, you have developed renunciation.
Te indutani ta te ke ngatu namja junde korang mengna layang lodo namje sine ti chigje te la lodo sidwa ngatu lodo namje siate zopa chimbola lodo namje sungo modo saja chimbola lodo namje si meng ta ko modo ne kondu shi ba ngatu lo rakpa te sugo do ko se lo rakpa te ta te ke lodo ko yore si semata ba lejum den ko ni be tamjuni ka wa ti yel samno tang ti lo rakpa te ke lodo to yore si zopa chimboda saja chimbo스 ya te ko te sem chamo ko thoni ke ja shi ke yoro sem chami ton tata sem ngachol kangan thesa te gari ton the gor chinde tata ngarang chol sem rakpa ka thoni de charan sim ba hedang ran sim ba nyumo rakpa te ngachol no chi ke yoro ti lo te dozi te eni nimbo te la lo do na ba yes ya te tata kondu shubate chakyo resi.
So the title of these major contemplations of the preliminaries in Tibetan, Lodok, Shi, the 4 reversing's of inclinations or reversing's of mind. Say Lodok, Lo means mind, and Dok means stopping them or reversing them. And so we don't hear that kind of language in the context of Mahamudra, of great perfection, Dzogchen. Find it here. And that's because at the levels of practice of Mahamudra and Dzogchen, we're dealing with subtle levels of mind, subtle types of mind and the antidotes to those. But in this preliminary discussion, the minds that we're seeking to reverse are rough, they're gross, they're strong delusions of clinging attachment, anger and aversion, ignorance, confusion, and so on. And so it's in these preliminaries that we find the actual methods for turning away from reversing those gross kinds of delusions.
Teriyata.
Yes.
Dindu da chuji nyamni si go ai na ne chishu ke ne ka chishu chu de da lo do nam ji de sta. Da de sa chi se chi ke chu ka ke yu mar da.
So I have to say, that there's really no teaching of Dharma that is more precious, more important than these contemplations for reversing those minds that we are normally prone to.
Matula sim tramo de ke no chi tu gu yu mar da. Sim tramo de ke ngatula daily life se ko la ni ja chi ke na na ka nga de tu gu yu mar. Donga ka nga te sab chi shu de ka se ra pa de. O te ngala gondo nga shi ka mari ko ngala go samba. Chakpa tan zimba. Ani chakpa ta dangwa lo ra pa de nga tula. Ta ka nga chi shu de tin che ge. Ti ka nga chi shu de ti nyumong de ti lo de la. Nyumong nyimbo de la. Lo do nam chi sin de. Ta de le la si ji da chu ji. Yo ma rin si.
So those subtle types of minds, they aren't really what harms us on a day-to-day basis. It's these rough, these gross forms of delusion, which are what harms us, what brings us suffering day to day. That strong feeling, I need this thing, I have to get this. I'm here permanently, I will never die. These gross kinds of attitudes are what's being referred to as lo here, the types of minds that need to be needs to be stopped or reversed.
Mahamandra mari, zopa chimbo mari, kake mari. Jibsu mulare pa tse chikla sanji ke kompang thomne. Sanji ya ke ju zo de gani zuri sina. Lo don namba yete ke zuri. Korang ke songa song yuri.
So, that very first of the Ma Siddhas, great meditators of Tibet, Milarepa, who attained enlightenment in a single lifetime, what was it that enabled him to do that? It was not the practice of Mahamudra or Dzogchen. It was this very practice of 4 contemplations which reverse inclinations. He himself said that.
Pena tingsang jitso kanana tingsang tan zambalingi sanji ke temba de ken chao de de ta temba yure vesina sanji temba yu de wanda chi ma mambo chi ke sanji temba la tonang se de wanda chi ta temba che de dimba chi yungu yure vesina kale khabo wanda chi ende se tan to kanyi sina ta te chu de nda chi korang sanji temba se ate kong shi so wa gewa tikpa chi amasa gewa pasom chokpa chi rang sim do ya ti sanji temba in song do mi shi ani tere mayin pa chi ke zipo tang ani drama da meng chimbo tang ani to su ko sanji temba in song ma do wa tende le ya bo chi sam no tang de nga chu cham san da sanji temba ani ti se nyam do ko li zo ra chi ti sang ka yin sin na mambo chi ke Ngöndro ko chule tani nyamni si ma go ni. Ani dzogchin da saja jimbo se ya da meng zikbo ko chule ani thonyap si ne. Ani deyang melo ngom so si ne si ne. I am dzogchin practitioner, I am Mahamandra practitioner. Ta tindi se ne ani zikbo si ne ke dana si de ni mambo doa.
So, if we think about it, the Buddha's teachings do exist in the world. There's a lot of people that take interest in them. So they do exist. But if we ask, do they exist in a fully qualified form, and contemplate what Buddha himself said? Commit not the slightest non-virtue, exert yourself in perfect virtues, fully subdue your own mind. This is my teaching. This is the teaching of Buddha. Buddha didn't say, oh, my teaching is Mahamudra, my teaching is Dzogchen. And so when we look at what people say about practicing the Dharma, they as Rinpoche said, they will say things like, I'm a Mahamudra practitioner, I'm a Dzogchen practitioner. But if we look to see who's actually applying themselves to what Buddha himself said is his real teachings of giving up harmful actions, putting joyful effort into positive actions, and subduing one's own mind as the root of that, then it doesn't look like that many people are practicing the Dharma in a fully qualified way, and so in that way it looks like Buddha's teachings are sort of declining in the world.
Lasso tange o de che ni tring ne chiran sola tanga karma Kagyu ke de chi ke main thapcha ji yung king ta de chi de chani ta chiran sola nge tring karma Kagyu ke ani Ngöndro ke thoni ani ma tambo de chiran sola Ngöndro ke long de ma bu ge yin si tring ani jik se na nga chu ta tring nye kan za nga chu chuti de chasa mari maybe the next time maybe we make it another section. That the rich mazina the rank chuti chasan and the chapter samaris. Then I
So Rinpoche says, as being as poor an example of the Kagyu lineage as I am, in this humility, says, I'm going to now offer the preliminary practices of the Kagyu. And they are extensive. I don't think we'll be able to finish them today. So we may have to have another session for that.
La sota long seate no Böke sangha ke chute la wang tang long seate tapte masi mixer chi hinda theravada tang mahayana tusula me dewa chi ta Böke sangha ke chute la tambo one top what is any long top what is any tela relation the here tree top what is one long tree sum seade be za chi mo zhe ge yu de ba song zang any de long de means.
So first of all, I'm going to be giving a transmission of these teachings. These three terms, Wang, Lung, and Chi, initiation, transmission, and commentary, are terms that are exclusive to Tantric Buddhism of Tibet. They don't they aren't used in the general Mahayana teachings, but in our Tantric Buddhism of Tibet, they're considered very important. That people receive empowerment, transmission, and commentaries on the teachings, especially the Tantric teachings that they receive. And so now I'm going to be giving, first of all, that transmission of this practice.
The Ngöndro ke chuti chachang de tri da long da dorji namjoma ka wang ta shongwa ina maung bala lad nyamni sili kapsu dorji namjoma ani dorji phamo wajere yogini te ka maung bala wang ji thomna ani yabo yore si ta ti ngala tri da wang da long chachang de na ki de nga zawala ma ani jabji sanje tenje ro mochire.
So the initiation in connection with these preliminary practices is that of Vajrayogini or Vajravarahi, and so at some point in the future we can perhaps have that. I receive the initiation, transmission, and the commentary on this practice from my root guru, Sanjay Tenzin Rinpoche.
Ta chiranju da longma nge poke ton doni kapse chiranju ke yapo ji sine kapse Chiranzu sosu jiwo de dwe chingwele che, any ninga payment dama jeka thola, any metal pama payment damaji tea toll you get the maybe zonk or you get the chick some of them. And in the do is a drama doing the cost of drafted the beige and a calimount and the children of Amchola. I'm sure the metal payment damaji and is a cassie de what I'm sure you need to test some of them. The metal you are eating Hinkal and do is mass of do metal Zawake. The Zawak Dombo, you get dirty Lama and this is so the architect, this I'm not down to. And in the mind is a long doing cups. I'm sure you can metal junior, Yoaki junior. And it is slap down, draw down, turn down, Juba, you also drop a chartam, the chance of top song, samba. What did they down into you?
So as I recite these words of the transmission, listen carefully and visualize that there are two lotuses that come from your heart to your ears, where there is 8-petaled lotuses at each of your ears, with the stem going down to your heart, where the heart of the flower is, and in that in your heart, visualize the syllable D, D-H-I-D, Sanskrit syllable, which is the syllable of non-forgetfulness, the Dharani of unforgetting memory. And as I recite the words, visualize the words and the sound coming as nectar that it comes to your ears, enters into the flowers, and then passes down through the stems to your heart. And in this way that you receive the transmission of the preliminaries.
Oh, that's home. The Jerembo, Twamakam Sando, Dunjule, so soon, the Mami Bana, Gubang, and Dunje, Junjer, Banam Palan, the Bishop, that she is a white so, but the end of the Jawari Kunjab Daloma, Kamaba, Jacokunjin, this is your budget, and Jama. Chile Kunjas, Bowan, Chujum, but Jimdala, and Joseph, to Donami to Jijuan, to Jerembo, Alosole, so was a large Jimbo, Dagishini, Malatine, and Solana Sanjus, to Jesuna Sagabe, and Poland, Shindacho, and the Shuba, Cadena, Mayan to the Dibanto, the young, the Judena. Ginger, there is a better young Rosina, stand to Jimje, Gazer, Nikai, Bellavada, and the Berdawada, Majokas, the Divisola, Kojoka, Tina, Kupe, Sansa. Sangaja, Dorjelo, Bojacata, Zela, never you dare the something, Jung, other Dibanco, and Juja, and Masawa, and Jijang, Dobrasido, Yambasan, this are what my Batato, Yabarajoba. Jambarajane, Milutum, Jibaka, teaching, and then Tambo comes out of your Jinde, Hatokajilata, to your son, and you want to Jutum Jambadaji, Cosondo, Jesojoda, and Mishida, the Rajuja. Sumbaji Teramado Ball in the Dagas de Beba, Santa, the Wasa, she said, you did not let down Coveni Mene, Shiban, Coveni, Rodio, the Hospital, and the Vasa, Shiba, she let in the Mesa, Shiba, tomorrow, Regina, the Jew. The Jazza, the Lambda, the Vajra, jetting on the end, the so we bosom, Jujang, the Motor, Major, Master, and the Zolomona, Dojana, Meko, saying. Them you look at the Jones Monosor and what the Jones on the Kayamos and the Kobalate, Jerusalem, the Don, what Tony was in the soldier, to say that you goes on to the leather, the more you have more you to the Mogan. Tinian Zawa, you but you have been on the Jojo, you Lana Jojo, say Jojo, 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 Bogan, Jojo, Bongo, Jojo, Jojo, what do not Jojo, Sergeant, you but you was in Jojo, the Majoton. Jetango Jedi, so Jivala, says all Vala, there in the Valatian, Rola, Pinto, Sanjos, and Jedi, all Vala, Lavaji, she listened to the end with a measure of the Tane Dake, Jenajari, Tante Bella, Jimis Verena, you Parmajor, Tetra Sadake, Tering, your bottom, you know, the new Latala Mila, Sokuja, Cesar, Majama, Kone, Kondam, Sanjo, Sindam, and Roger, Sanjo, Julo, Sen, Dujalena, Kuya, Komasina, Dujasina, the young. Sanjo Simbakan, the Dakuja, Mono, Padang, Simje, Damje, the number Yerin Jatan, the Georgian Lee, some Tamaraja, Jatan, the Dodos, Dorjes, Simbakum, the Neranga, Jura, in Lama, Dorjes, Simbaji, Saji, Dorje, to go to the Soji and the Kojo, young over Golang, Lama, Dorjes, Marajan, and Godon, Simje, the Doni, don't go to the Sanya, Zoada Betunia Doga Daveting the Hongandari Gaja the Jinukole the Zaba, Sandaga Town, Lugan Yatirani, Don Tabarajo, on better Sados, Memon Bola, better Sado, the Mati Randa Dome, Basu, Anora Dome Bawas, the Minus August, the Metal Jayagro, Ha Banga, with the Memon with the Bamas, Misado, you gave on better Sato Home, Junior Tamoni, Garjate. Gobodale Mishimoniatum Zelena, Lama Gobodim, to Jimbo and Road, to Cosundo, to them, Jandal, Durani, don't pass with the head of Zeto Soro, to just Madala, Jada, the major, so 20 years of possible mentor and near to Blumenda, Denida, Dumler, and Yanga to Kojonga, Jilan, to the age of the user, Yadam Saja, Judagan, Julian Jampa, suggesting your Beramindara, don't do the Hing Tabaras with the Sunji to Beraja, Judah, better Sato, some Bolam, better Sato, the mother and Rome was Norotome was the Minda, was a message, Gromas out on the Mama, Samaya, Sato, I think to Yenta was an awesome on better Bama, Yetamal, the Bawaji, on better accounts, the Jaren, Hoyoka, so could be said of your Shalima, Bolon, the Balanju, son with the Ludan, Banga, Yavanga, Yavanga, Moji, or some Jason Duma. Mamebelo don't color me over budget, more budget, Jorma, budget, the Jimboya, Bakiman, Tamala, Makama, Duman, Nazamata, Manima, Dawar, Bogia, those all in the Jewish Saladam, from Judge of Zangama, Mayeda, Sanchez, Bawa, Juno, Soda, Jibana, but to end about the genius in yellow Sajo, Rabbi, Yenny, Sanchez, made them to conduct. So just some Jibas, Sanchez, Madama, the Yadala, the Jamal, the Yera, the Legislative, Sevamada, Medicine, the Milo Commando, to get the Genius, Medal, and Zamaga, some of the Sawara, Samaya, Shibera, and Using mirrors, the most of Sajolana, but in majority of some the Jacob of the Superman, and Watania, Bedouard, the Medo, Transumbayana, Sajus, mirror of the Jenny that was understanding in the Honda, in the city of Kosoyo Lamas, Samadi, Dalino, Jonathan Lamy, Jogo of the Soda, Jimingo of the Sotawada, Jizayana, could just give what you said, the Jinkaja Bakum, the Kosonia of the Soja, the Dada, Roniam, Jerusalem, Yudosipta, Lama, Nam Joran, Chia, Porota, Bokum, Buja, Kawaii, Bajion of Jesala, the Tesome. Anze Berajo Bedani, Davala Jidi, Doran, the Jedi, Juvala Mado, Jam, Zoto, on Japan, Bakunja, and the Mendo, the one of Jida, Subazimam, Jidajina, the one with the body hair. Lamaya Dangarum, Dake, the Sultan, maybe to Jet, no me to change upon the Susan, Kunjum, Jikon, the body Lamada, Valdudan, Jabakunja, because the Bamale, the Bayan, the image of Gavakun. Sajola Jolan, the person that you me, you go to some just only you want to do the Lineage, Javasi, and Dagan, some dollars in Jola, Julio, to go to Sodolo, go to Varsim, to go to Locus, and image of Jibas. Conjabda, but in the Jazz of Javaso, Empire to Vaso, Sarah has one is all in age, you need some Papa of the Sajin, but in Shower and Impetus, Joan Mera was one is all in age, Judaism, the Hodava, and you was one like Javano, the so one is all in age. Jabba and the Lang of that window was on the go, Jajito, the Jerobo, so one is all in age, to come to the Padding Mabangurum, used to do Ojima, giving other was one is all in age, it's all. Are to be Javang, Mandaling, in your road, but to the Janelo to the Kayo. So the solid so into the Japan, Borina Banaya, but Tomato, so on the solid age, so to change, and when you put some more to get the new Jerusalem, you know, so on the solid age, and so many Lamar change. But I hear when you see others, the individual was also on the solid age of Bamgo, Jamaji, Roger, Jamachi, Holokunda, also to Asia, so on the solid age. No Bami, just on Jantida, Exagivation, wine, Jimmy, on the age, so Jim Dirt, and the Judge of the Common Dorje, and we didn't immediately go to me, Dorjana, Garjano, Rovaco, Giacomo, so on the solid ages of the Judge, Geneva, Lamjolo, the Suya, the Los Modeli. To that demand go what you know, Mr. Doja, Convicula, Massage, so on the solid age, Tony Jimin, the ones of me, you want them to diminish, so on the solid age, you know, Machine, you were a young Jimmy to talk about so on the solid to the command, but they need to Jero, Baratiana, but the Mohammed, so on the solid age, you don't continue to into much to that you got a yellow when you zero, so on the you know, Shake Makal of Jimmy to Gino, to any more than you so on the solid age, if not the Wakunga to the Tony, Mr. Jimmy, so on the solid age, to that the man to it, and Javaji Sokan to J. and Karja, the Jello, so on the solid age, someone to over to the images of the Togas, Bemanjola, so on the solid age, Ricton, Sami, the Junior of Jordan, Beran of the Songmen Jangkong Jinzi Seren Jolo Sowan de Zole Je Sum Jagon Sum Jarkon Du Jar Juje Ram Jam Jing Gor Do Du Jara Chap Razong Chap Dara Ruba Du Sowan de Zole Je Jelam Devi and Rosu Nyuma Rakon de Jagan Sengo Sowan Sowan de Zolin Ji Song Dorani So Yedal Tele Gudo Jung Kado Tam Jam Jolo Sowan de Zolin Je de So Da Basun Kone Gon Sar Jara Bala Yemi La So Guna Kunje Ye Ne Lo Je Ta Ju Do So Du Mam Du Za Du Du Ba Du Za Du Za Topsa Topsi Du Mam Ba Ni Ve Jura Dang Ba Kun De So Ja Ju Mang Jo Do Jin Chan Ji De Lo Na Ro Tam Ba Ma Lo Ju Tu Sum Ji Ba Kun Ji Ji Ju Ban De Da Sola Sa Ja Ji Lang Ni Me Do Do Ba So An So Ka Ju Lo Ma La Ju Ba Ji Lo No Ji Lo Kun Ja Kam So Ma Je Se No Kun La Ju Ni Se Da Ju Ba Kun Ni Ga Ji Ma Ni Ba Ni Ma Kun Ja Go So Ni Ma Ga Go Ji Ba La Ma Ju Do So An Ba Kun Ji Me Ma Ji Ba Se Ji Me Kun Ja Kun Ja Ma Ka Ya Do Ngo So Ma De Ma Ji Ga Ji Ba Kun Gom Sha Lo Dang Da Wa Sin Je Lo Nam Dong Go Ju Go So Ma Ji Ma Ji An Je Wa La Ma Ra Ma Ni Kun De Me Do Ba Sin Tu So An Chan Je Ka Sin De Ma Nam Je Ko Ni Ba Na Ma No Wa La Ni Ba Sin Da Lo Ma Sin Ba Ji Lo So An So Ma No Wa La Ni Ba Sin Da Lo Ma Ko Ji Ko Lo So An So Ma No Wa La Ni Ba Sin Da Lo Ma De Lo Manang Guada Besin Lo Ba De Ko Lo So An De So Kan Ma Pan Chin No So Sa Wa Yang Na Lam Ba Rum Bo Chi Lo So Da De Lo Yo Do Gu Mi Ju Lo Chi Chi Me Nam Do Ko Lo Se Ji Me Do To Ba Na Se Ju Go Do Ba Sin Je Lo Ta La Ma Jam Bu Tu Ta La Yu Ning Do Na Ma Ju Sa Pa De La Ma Ta Ma Jim Da La Me Se Wa Ji Ko Ju Ju Do Me Ba Sin Tre Na Jing Ru Chi Ba So Wa Do Me Na Ko Na Je So Ko La Do Ko Jo Ko De Na Ma Ko So De Ja Ta Je Wen Zu Ben De We So Rang Ga Da Wa Te Me Lu Da Pa Ma Wa Do Ji Ro Gun De We Ru Ko Da Ba Gun De Ben De We So Ma Rang Ga De Ba Te Me Nga Ru Sa Wa Do So La Lo Ji Ko De Ba Ka Ri To Gun De We So Rang Ga Ni Ga De Ba Ji Ro Da Ji Wa Do De Nyu Ko De We Ju Ko Da Ba Ne So Sa Ka Ma Ne So La So De To Ma De Ji Ba Wa Da Sin Ko Ni Ko De Ne La Ma Hu Ji Rang La De Rang Ga Lu Ma Yi Sa Lam Do Ji Su Ma Yi Me Chi So Sun De Lu Do Rang Do Lo Xie To Ma Ma Yi Ba Gun De Ji Rum Ba Ho Ngowa Mon Ne Gindin Do Ma De Do Je Da De Do Ye Je We Ni Na Ga La Le Do Je Du Sa Ni Je Ko Ma Ju Ge Wan De Ni Sa Sa Ja Ji Ma Du Wa Ji Jam Te Sa Lang Kum Se Sa Je Ku Sum Ni Be Sa La Ju Ni Me Je De Be Sa La Ge Ni Me Sun De Be Sa La Je Chi Dang Ngowa Mon Lam De Ba Re Sho Pa Re Je Wa Ba Kum De Ji Bo Yon Sam De Ni Pa Tu Shu Ki Tim Ba Tar We Je 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 Sa Wa Mang Ga La So Nam De Ya Tam Je Si Ba Ni Tom Ne Ni Be Da Na Pham Se De Ji Gan Na Je Ba Lam Chu Ba Se Pen So Len Do Wa Sho Ola So Da De Ge Long Jampa Jing Ma Pu Yin Si Chan So La
Now I've offered you the complete transmission.
Da Nga Chu can you see all the text and the Zoom do you have the
I don't think I have the text now. Yeah, you did give it to me. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not prepared? I'm gonna beat you in your head, okay? This one. It's a joke.
I was so careful to get prepared, and then
Yeah.
you surprised me. There we go.
Ola so ta de ke nga chu Ngöndro ke kama Kagyu ke kama kansang ke Ngöndro si ta Kagyu na Kagyu la che bie chung je mambo che yore te de cha ni ta nga dai na kalma pa kalma kansang ke ju ba si tambo kalma pa ni ta kalma pa kum chen chu dun ba ka pa de ju ba de la kalma kansang Kagyu se ke yore te kansang Kagyu ke Ngöndro re si je ta Ngöndro ke choa de la 다 mambo shiwe che ori tata pyo ke chujo re la Ngöndro re tende che yo dewa chade yo re si tende hindi zane eni de ta kansang Kagyu Ngöndro tende chade yo re si go up there number 1 this is the last go all the way oh yeah yeah Samba can you move the page yeah move the page
So there are many categories of the Kagyu lineage, the 4 major, 8 minor branches. My particular branch, known as Karma Kangsang, is that which comes from the Karmapas lineage. And so this is the preliminary practices of that lineage, of which there are many others of other lineages as well.
다 텔라양 아니 Jude Manda Kasi Chiro Mandawala, Undo Mandawa de Chane, Tangi Chiransol, Pensunchi, Martina, Machukalma Kagyu, Cho Ying de la, Ani Dorjin Changni, Telo, Naro, Gambopa, Mapa, Mela, that be
Blurry.
Ah,
It's blurry.
Blurry. You
No.
cannot see.
A little, yeah.
Is it? Can you stop
Oh, the text or the? Oh, I can stop
image,
sharing.
the image
Stop
of it.
sharing. Yeah.
Is it-
Stop sharing.
Can you see?
And
You
then,
gotta unblur.
and then let
Blur
me.
background,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Show the only me here.
Can I come help Rinpoche?
Yeah.
With the
What to
computer?
do?
Yeah, I think you just gotta unblue your back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
know
yeah,
what
so
to do
you-
this. Okay, wait 1 second. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as there are many different ways of practicing preliminaries in the different systems, and they have different assemblies of beings before whom it is practiced in our karmapa or karma kangsang lineage. This is the field for accumulation, the tree of holy beings that we visualize. So in the center is Buddha Vajradhara, and represented there are the lineage masters of our tradition, Tilopa, Marpa, Naropa, Marpa, Gampopa, and so on. So this is what we visualize for the practice of the preliminaries.
Okay. Yeah. Just example. Next time we can buy these things you can buy, I think, from the online also. Yeah. Just I show you the. That is it. Now show the text. Hola so. That is Kagyu Park Ngöndro te. That is long tun simbari. Te nga chu Rinpoche in the man doing Magoachi ne. Oh. Okay, page 5. Can you go to the page 5? Move to page 5. Go to 5.
Isn't that 5?
No, this is
that-
4.
Is that in here too, Rinpoche, or is that
No,
just,
no.
just up there?
Yeah, only here today. Next day you should buy. Yesterday they just sent to the link for the people that you can buy the Namse Banzu, the website,
Oh, okay.
the text from there.
Wonderful.
Okay, 다들라 담보들랑에 만드는데 담보 검사 담조 린친데 토관질라 다리 등요사. 다디나나 디 다당에 공든데 시자바케. 아니 로도 넘버 이들이 진데 요거도 니바 누주 담지 마다지 구순로가 최소 추원다. 남치 참이 시세로를 때를 취집해서 준비해도 순바 시세라만 문도와 레네다가 사세데 바바 게르사와 따도도와 신세니를 안준이라다. 이방 코로네로 대표서 동할숨지 따도 나면서 수사집이 힘을 가동다 심지진의 준비사주 름시 그 페이지 5 to 6 그때 차장대 로도 남지리야 대 삼바가 마치 송야나.
So these first lines relate to those 4 ways of reversing our inclinations on page 5 and 6. So as Rinpoche asked me to read the translation, first, this precious human birth, so favorable for the practice of the Dharma, is hard to obtain and easily lost. At this time I must make this meaningful. And
Yeah, this is impermanent. Okay, for sure. Yeah. 니바데.
And so, then secondly, impermanence. Second, the world and all its inhabitants are impermanent. In particular, life of each being is like a water bubble. It is uncertain when I die and become a corpse, as it is only the Dharma that can keep me at that time. I must practice now with diligence. The next is karmic cause and effect. Third, at the death there is no freedom and karma takes its course. As I create my own karma, I should therefore abandon all unwholesome action and always devote my time to wholesome actions. With this in mind, I must observe my mind stream each day. And so then comes the defects of samsara, fourth, just like a feast before the executioner leads me to my death, the homes, friends, pleasures, and possessions of samsara cause me continual torment by means of the three sufferings. I must cut through all attachment and strive to attain enlightenment.
Yeah. Tā te ke tātā ngē kōng tā shēpa nānshīn tā shē tā kōng nā ngē lō tō nām shē sī nā shū yīn bā tā te lā dībā chī tā rī yō rī sī.
So that's a summary of those four ways of reversing one's mind, one's intentions, one's inclinations.
Tā ndī nā nī ngā chū ngūn rō sī nā shē kī yō rī. Ngūn rō tā kā rī rī sī tā ndī nā nī mēng tā sā kā ngūn rō tā kā rī sī tā chā nī kōng tā shūpa nānshīn 아니 담보 산차래 아니 니바 이간데 수바 메달 이바 라면 남죠 디제랑 혼로 범예시네 범 레레레레레 사파텔라니 혼로 범예시 혼로 세야데 맹데리 당근에 그 혼로 데 가레리 시디다니 혼로 나니 혼로 데 개치슈데 아니 로도 남바이제데 다다데 백케치 모리 데 너반도야 말다 데 세임고 토니 로도 남바이제데 세임고 토니 기에 곰세네 아니 곰자야리다.
So what we call the preliminaries, the practice of the prostrations, making offerings of the mandala, reciting the 100-syllable mantra, practicing Guru Yoga, are, as I said, what we're called the preliminaries, but what are the preliminaries are these four means of reversing one's inclinations, Lodok Nam Shi in Tibetan, and so they are something that's not recited. It's a contemplation. It's working with these themes in your own mind, so that it brings around that transformation. So this is the real preliminary practice.
Tati tini page number 6 the Dundun Sovi, Paksam Junshinka, Dombo Zawachila, Yaganga, Chibeva, Sintu Pemba, neither thing the Zawa Lama, Dorjin Chana, Kagyu, Lamekan, Dunda Yeta, Yesachan, the Jabatan, Udogan, the Dindo or the Chujon Soma, Social in Tonko Jamzakon, Sonton, Nesing, the Kaja, Magin Samjankuma, Ziji, Jamdo Simchi, Jursiateke, Jamdo, Soying the Gomyari. The Inchuteke, page number 6, below the last line 2. The page number 8. Yeah, that chasang the Karadisina Tede, only what you jump over choying it at a team, but Tanga, or parting, but all that is the Shitavi.
So, this next section describes the visualization, that tree of holy beings, the field for accumulation that Rinpoche was just showing. And it says, in front of me, in the center of a lake, is a wish-fulfilling tree. It has one root, one trunk, and four main branches. As the central fork is a lion throne on which rests a lotus, sun, and moon. On this sits my root guru. I should say, at the central fork is a lion throne. And then on this sits my root guru as Vajradhara, surrounded by all the Kagyu gurus. In front of him are the Yidams, on his right the Buddhas, behind him the holy Dharma, on his left the Sangha, and below the throne are all the Dharma protectors. Each group is surrounded by a sea of attendants of their own kind. On the grassy shores of the lake are all those who have been my mothers in the past. Their numbers pervade the sky. One pointedly we resolve to take refuge and arouse bodhicitta.
So
this shows that field for accumulation before which we take refuge and develop bodhicitta. The field for accumulation of refuge specifically here.
Data Namkan Tatanyam Simchin Tamji, Soap, Jutusum, Jetijinship, Tamji, Kurso, Toyo, the Teletum, Chitu, Chitu, Toraji, Zaidi, and Public de Tamji, and Adapt, his all the Jibaji, Matawana, Sanjira, Children, Tambu, Children, Papa Ginduna, Jabon, so you can't demand just on Chiosia. That day, page 8, the Gang, the Nichura Yaso, that say a Tinimara, 어디니 말아 page 9 다들 차상대 어떤들이 하시 다들 잠로 지바데 되게 띵게 요리시 잠로 지바데 맞지 잠로 사야데 지바티는 요리시.
So what follows now is the extensive expression of refuge, taking refuge, which starts in the very last words on page 7. On the grassy shores of the lake are all those who have been my... Oh, no, excuse me. Okay, so, on page 8, from end of the first line of page 8. I and all sentient beings, limitless as the sky, is vast. Take refuge in the very embodiment of the essence of the body, speech, mind, qualities and activities of all the Buddhas of the 10 directions and 3 times, the source of the 84,000 collections of the Dharma, and sovereign of the exalted Sangha. I take refuge in the glorious holy lamas, the kind root lama and lineage masters. I take refuge in all the idams and deities gathered in the mandala. I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in all the holy Dharma. I take refuge in all the noble Sangha. I take refuge in the assembly of the Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharmapalas, those who have the all-seeing eye of wisdom.
되게 지켜요. 당아주 그 추대 상하 그 추인데 자네 상하 그 추대 유대 그 추. 단도리야나 시야. 단도리야나 유대 그 추지 차대. 그 유대의 듣고이나 당보 라마근 되네 왕당 맹아당 생모티야 라소바 라마 메와이나 드타 메와니 자네 아니 벽 남부 추대라 당보들라 아니 라마라 접선지요 사제라 접선지요 슈라 접선지요 겐도라 접선지요 시네 담보들 라마 고레트 담보lep 그 요리시 데 중심 가리시나 벽 추대 상하 그 추 유대 그 추냠니시 고아 인도잖아 라마라 마티나 라마다 예담니라 라파다 라마라 마티마이나 유대 그 추든 죽음에와 인도잖아 내가 될 tukri 요리시.
In our Tantric Buddhism of Tibet, the guru, the lama, is taken refuge in to begin, because without the lama, we don't know of the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the practice of Dharma, and so without the guru and unity of the guru with the meditational deity, the yidam, there's no way to accomplish the tantric practice of Buddhism of Tibet, and so that's why, first of all, we take refuge in the Lama.
Tati yugutini dema chuknani. Okay, page number 10, move to 10, next one. Tati ke any tat jamru dubati nana 심지的有的话切长的 잠도 더 심진이가 되는 게 담보 잠도 더 마치나 산초 님본 치제 봐 산제 나로 잡선지 주다 산지 순바에 초랑이 되지 잡선지 더디 저간 이해 되게 아니 잠도 되는 게 요리지.
So next we have a brief form of taking refuge again in this next verse with the four lines. Until I reach the essence of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas, and likewise in the Dharma and in the assembly of Bodhisattvas.
다들라 아니 당에 지난주에 들이 빼고니 띵과 인데자네 담보 마마 바뀐다. 밤내 아니 사치기다. 잠로된 농근도 그 사치고 요리시. 잠로대 칸이 잠로대 사. 아니 잠도 사도 니츠간 효로가 이제대 사지 사주님본 지제바 사지나라 잡수지 주다 사지 수바 초라에 대비 잡수지. 대사나인 되게 요리. 대마사와 이나양 라마라 잡선치오, 산지라 잡선치오, 추라 잡선치오, 겐도라 잡선치오 쓰는 대사나인 되게 요리시.
And so I'm going to get down because I want to demonstrate how you combine the practice of making prostrations with this taking of refuge. And you can use these 4 lines to recite. You can also recite it in another way. Lama la kyabsu chiwo, sanje la kyabsu chiwo, chu la kyabsu chiwo, gendun la kyabsu chiwo. I take refuge in the Lama, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha.
야, 다들 지금 지금도 와서 봐. 안 통고도 와. 올라서 다 딘디시드 맨날 당보들라 단데 삼범지들라 뭐야 투지나 오케이야 굿 오케이 삼범지 살이 값서 삼범지 살이 값서 삼범지 살이 값서 단디나나 ngani jamro de dang ani zubo ka san sia ri ta sambam chi di dan sa di kap so ta ngani jamro de dang lama la jap sun chiho sanje la jap sun chiho chu la jap sun chiho gendo la jap sun chiho ngani de dang de sa chi ka nyam de ri de jamro bam chi khani sa wa dang zubo ka sambam chi cha wa ni nyam de bam ni cha ro ri si.
So as you're making 100,000 prostrations, which is the practice of the preliminaries here, at the same time you make 100,000 recitations of the refuge prayer. So vocally, 100 recitations of the refuge prayer. And as you notice, She was doing it in that latter wave, Lama la Kyabsu Chiyo, which includes refuge in the Lama, Sanja la Kyabsu Chiyo, refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
야, 근데 지도 다 사대라 가래 차크 요리시도 살에 사세야 돼 누지고네 이 개와치 임바치라 사세야 돼 이 뇨모바 나자기니 뭐 나자기니 뭐 차크 요리시.
So as then you physically make the prostrations, the way that this acts as an antidote to the delusions is it acts as an antidote to pride, as you humble yourself by bowing and making prostration.
사대라 사제바당 사두바세는 넘버 2 요대와리 사제바 엄마한테 산지나 그걸 lok서 그 산지도 사장사세야 되는 사제바세 다 된지다는데.
So there's an extensive prostration and there's a brief prostration, and in our Tibetan lineage we do make the extensive prostration, which is the extended full prostration.
그때 간들이 시디산의 장사대 담보 가시지게 뭐 쭉돌 안드시는 걸 안드시 야야니 요리데 김세 가르시다 사지 좀디인데 그 신상부 숨주 손이다 뱀시 장부 지역주가 나니 다왜 쭉돌때 뱀 모아시 슬랍 침보지라 저기 유도 자네 마음 발라라니 에디고 쭉돌도 지어티네 어떤데 지기 치는데 담보 걸 안드시 왜 쭉돌이 야야 대리스 대 제나인 되게 요리 대 마제나 야 룩소 찍라 쭉돌을 야마 거치 담보 짜와를 야 림발을 야 닝가를 야 대게 body speech mind 다 three doors 그도 고숨나 대리 야도 가는 루지고니 득득 참아 다송 삼바 르라 거의 사지지 거의 슬랍다 라면 거의 슬랍 숙송 삼바 아니 나라지 사자자 안데 자니 나라 나그랑 그 득득 이동 차상데 다네 나라 아니 라마다 산지 예담 탐지 그 송거 슬랍 숙송 삼바 아니 사자 닝가라듯이 야니 값서 아니 셈지 고니사 득득 이동 차상데 다네 아니 랑게 셈라 라마다 산지 예담 용수 줘봐 아니 투지 슬랍 숙송 삼바
Now, some people begin by placing their folded palms at the very crown of their head, which you can do. The reason for that is that among the 32 major and 80 minor marks of a fully enlightened being's body, the crown protrusion on top of the head is considered most very precious, most precious of these marks, and so as to create a cause for oneself to attain that special mark of full enlightenment in the future is the reason that people will do that. Otherwise, you start by placing your folded palms at your forehead, then your throat, and then your heart to symbolize the body, speech, and mind. As you place them at your forehead, you think of being purified of all of your negativities and transgressions of vows that you've committed physically, and all of the physical blessings of the body, of the Lama, the Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas and deities all entering you. And then when you place your palms at your throat, you think of purifying all of your negativity and transgressions that you've created vocally, and then all the blessings of the speech of the lamas, Buddhas, and deities enters into your speech. And then as you place them at your heart, you think of being purified of all your negativity and transgressions that you have committed through your mental processes, and feel that you are blessed, receive all the blessings of the lamas, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Idams, meditational deities, all the holy beings. At that point.
Yeah, I did it. Lamala Jasum Gio, Sanjela Jasum Gio, Chula Jasum Gio, Genduna Jasum Gio, Lamala Jasum Sanjela Jasum Gio, Chula Jasum Gio, Genduna Jasum Gio, Lamala Jasum Gio, Sanjela Jasum Gio, Chula Jasum Gio, Genduna Lamala Jasum Gio, Sanjela Jasum Gio, Genduna Jasum Gio, Lamala Jasum Gio, Sanjela Jasum Gio, Chula Jasum Gio, Genduna Jasum Gio, Lamala Sanjela Jasum Gio, Chula Jasum Gio, Genduna Jasum Gio. 어떤 지당 당 문에 그 사지당 쓰고라 당가지 부주 난추 그 토니 삼범 지리값을 지당도 들으신 지그 요리지.
So as you're counting, trang wala drunk gyagin be.
난 정말 당난 되게 요리 때문에 다 내들은 이 마상 무슨 좀뭘 지 중요하진도 대상 좋아야도 와 좀뭘 무슨 많이 돼야지. 내들은 이 마상.
So as you make your prostrations, you can count the 100,000 either on a mala or those counters that you can buy these days. I didn't find mine today, but so you do keep track of the number that you're making.
Oh yeah, so
I found it.
Yeah,
So you can put this on your finger like this, and so that's a very easy way of doing it.
Oh yeah, that that's how do
So now it's for the more briefer way of making prostration.
Lazy prostration for lazy people. No, don't be lazy. 남주 ngasi chanchi kapse tatela tate gongdu xiba nanxi le nga yi sung ge toni ani de demi zong ta chang da ne samlo ta ya de ke chim bu samlo ta ya de le nga yi sung de cha chang da ne le nga yi sung la chanji ge ku song to ge sa xiu song sam ba ta de nang go yu ri.
So in connection with this brief way, shorter way of making prostration, the same contemplation as before is important. The purification of body, speech, and mind, and the receiving of the blessings of body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened beings. You do that the same way.
The 100,000 prostration siyate the dada de yong mari ko jang sa rang chin 100,000 de sa ya le ma de ko bu mo ke the dada de 100,000 de sa ni yu mari.
So in our Tibetan tradition, we don't count those brief ones in the 100,000. If we're going to do 100,000 prostrations, we do the full length prostrations only as it counted towards that.
Yeah.
And Rinpoche yang kyang chale kyamdrogi domba de mana dombarawa chagrela.
They cut in yoga yona kashia ka yobo yomarwa. Panga to in Namju de Nondo de Zane, Sa chicken and the Jambo Nires and the Yuri. What the day?
So I was mentioning to Rinpoche that he was reciting the refuge prayer more quickly than he was making each prostration, and he says, well, some people do it like that. Some people can't say the words as quickly, so they say one refuge recitation with each prostration, but Rinpoche was reciting it more quickly than that. So he would end up with over 100,000, probably over 200,000 refuge prayers doing it at that speed.
He did the Ngöndro just finished last 2 months ago, everything. Ngöndro tell you that. Ngöndro ke Koran kete Ngöndro mbije the chatan shoris chayoris.
So Ngöndro has completed his 100,000 prostrations.
100,000 offering mandala, 100,000 vajrasata, 100,000 guru yoga, and this text.
And all 4 of the 100,000s with this text. The Vajrasattva recitations, the mandala offerings, and the Guru Yoga, all.
What is last one?
We do say 1 year, take it in 1 year.
Whoa, you really hit it hard. You did all that in 1 year?
Yeah.
Whoa.
The Maya or come up at the children says why.
Yeah, I'm very slow though. It's taken me like 5 years. I'm only on the mandala.
Oh. Yeah. You also right, Devin?
I'm 30,000 into prostrations.
Oh wow.
And it's been 2 years now. I tried it once before with a different lineage, and I got to 40,000. And I was like, I'm gonna start again and just do that.
Yeah. Tate ngarang le nyamnyongji ngarang kete sambya ki nyamnyongji chiran chala. I want to share my experience during the COVID. The COVID tate to toyo ke natsa te lebi kapsu nge lorere la any sambam rere chayinsi sambam rere chati lo sum se do so lo sum te la nge sambam sum te chay te sambam sum te chati pa masi le ta semni ka la pe chipo ta ngone tane pe masi le sem la pe dechi pe masi dewa chimbo chi pe ya bo chi Tati Sade Natu Namjuina, Lubjonganani, Tata Jimlan Royata, Zupo, Jondar Siata, Ramada Shigdoa. The Sa Nimal Japsari, Japsani and Satava in the Zupola, Pe Zupo Yapo. Zupun Trutin, a Sale, Lasaki, Tatan Mendosi. And in Natu Namjuta, Sade, any Sugaton in Rogo, this I'm not on Gongo, Gomjak and Rogo, the Tani, Lulayan Telelas Mendoa, Selaya Telelas Mendosi. So I
want to mention about my own experience that during 3 years of COVID, I did prostrations 100,000 each year, and it was very blissful, both mentally and physically for me. So I just want to mention that, that as a physical activity, prostration is very good. We go to the gym for exercise, but while we do prostrations with Dharma intentions, it's also very beneficial to our body and our speech.
Hola, so that is you to need. That is you to need. Tom, can you share the text? Page 10. 10 다되게 산초님분 취재봐 산재나라 접수지 취다 산주 수바에 초라한 대비 접신 치에서야 되게 잠도시 다들 잠도도 심진이돼 아니 잠도서야 되게 가래된 거를 시대잖아 나랑도 남바인 비준신을 띠네 아니 남부 치취도 잠도 차기요 다들 심지도 가래제 거를 아니 특바침비 취인바 인장 아니 심지도 동거요리시 아니 잠도대 그 넘버터도 추바당 아니 심지대 그 특바침부터도 추바 어떤지 고니세야 되들 차기요리시.
So we do these 4 first lines of the refuge as an indication that we are Buddhist practitioners. This is the practice of all Buddhists to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And with the next 4 lines of bodhicitta, it sets us into the practice of it indicates that we are a practitioner of the Mahayana teachings of Buddha. So these are the entrances. These are the beginnings of the practice of Buddhism in general, and then the beginning of practice of the Mahayana teachings.
제달 문제 대시 기 사주 투네 지바다 사주 심벌 라발라 대다르지 네바다 대빈 돌아 핀도도 사주 센데 집지시 대빈 더 라발라 럼바이진데 라버 제시 다 남자 주던 같이 사주 센그 domba 링기요 사주 센그 domba 링데 또 참에 되냐면 너무 요리 어다테 배 용다 제시 침부 시와라게 준족은 아니 쳤드인지 데려와 데리시.
So those next words of bodhicitta say, just as Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta, followed the bodhisattva path, and through progressive training established themselves into the stages of the bodhisattvas, likewise for the benefit of sentient beings, I too will give rise to bodhicitta, training the bodhisattva path stage by stage, and gradually, as they did, become proficient. So these are lines with which we regularly take the bodhisattva vows, and they are, as the recitation comes in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life.
다데 차스문도 아체 디 요트니 니 다데 제세치 비시와라 그송리 땡두 다친 레베요 메세파 렉버트 트레 산제 릭서치 산제세스 다팅저 다네 다기 찌네데 릭든 tumbe 레잠데 쭈미 쯤 렌들라 요발먼죠 데다사 다기 때는 쪼바 탐제지 징한로와 대신 니당 바드데라 노르 프진제 라다 라미라서 가와지 사죠 세노 rum보치 마지바네 지저지 지바냐마 메바야 공내 페바죠 사죠 세노 문다시 사죠 쭈라 요하다 산제 남지 요소시 되제레나 뽕와지 사죠 스바 남지는 로동토라 공럽죠 공보이네 강고바 심지나라 뎀저쇼 심지담지 데다 덴저지 니로담지 다도 똥바지 사죠 스바 강나 사요 데다 군지 몰란도 바쇼 바르당 심지담지 대와다 대외지다 데머지지 심지담지 동하지 주다 타와르지지 동할미베 대와 담바다 문다와 주지 얘는 차단을 다와 땅형 침벌하네 바르 저르지 아니 요테네 담마르 자위르 위시 다단지시 다데 인추데게니 다 잠도 거데 차상도 드바리시.
So we recite that 3 times, and then we would continue with words that Shantideva also uses. Today my life is fruitful, I've attained precious human existence and am born into the family of Buddha. Now I am a child of Buddha. From now on I will only do activities appropriate to the lineage, so that no stain will come to this pure, faultless, noble family. Today, in the presence of all the refuge, I invite all the beings to enjoy happiness until they have reached Buddhahood. May the gods, demigods, and all other beings rejoice. Bodhicitta is precious. Those who have not given birth to it, may they give birth. Those who have given birth, may their bodhicitta not diminish but increase further and further. May they not be separated from bodhicitta but be fully committed to bodhisattva actions. May they be accepted by the Buddhas. May they abandon all negative actions. May all the good wishes of bodhisattvas for the benefit of all sentient beings be accomplished. May the intentions of such protectors bring happiness and prosperity to beings. May all sentient beings be happy. May the lower realms be emptied forever. May the earnest aspirations of bodhisattvas of all the stages be accomplished. May all sentient beings have happiness and the root of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the root of suffering. May they never be separated from the highest bliss, which is without suffering. May they come to rest in great impartiality, which is free from attachment and aversion in those near and far, or attachment and aversion to those near and far. And then finally, the objects of refuge melt into light and dissolve into me. So this completes the first practice of prostrations, or end of refuge.
다데 베는 남주치란조나 담보 산산네 지기이나 디 직복에 아니 데세 담보 고티니 마라 로도 남지테 데니 파로텔 데세 아니 데란 참자 아니 레갈은 로고야다야 다바시 레가요라 레간 로고야 데란 참자 야 산인 고니 산지야데 데세데나 온 저기 요리 시데세 야 저기 요리 디 유고데 차창도 많이 마다반 돈도고 말이지.
So if you're doing the preliminaries, you can do this much, and then stop there, and go for your work and so on. I know everyone needs to work. And as you're doing this first part of the preliminaries, you don't need to go on to recite the rest of them. You can just recite this part and practice this part with the prostrations.
Yeah. You want to break 10 minutes?
Sure.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
How about, because we're going to 2:30, right? We're going to start now, right now. 1:10. What do you think? Maybe 10.
Yeah.
Sure.
And did you say the text had been sent to everybody, or it's on the website, or?
Yeah, Rachel, she said that.
She sent it via email to everybody?
She's going to send it.
Oh, she's going to send it. Okay. Great. I was going to
Yeah.
say I could.
Yeah.
Any of the karma chula person, Jongas person Yagida. This is the room Mambodoa, today the Johnny, any Shila Chu, and it is only the Nani, you know.
So we'll take a bit of a break now for 10 or 15 minutes. Like you said, it's a lot to cover.
Can you confirm the part that to recite in the text with every prostration? If you can pull it up, Tom.
Oh, okay. Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Clear.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think it starts on page 8.
Yeah.
Is that? No.
A little forward, one more.
It's yeah.
7? No, there's
8. Forward.
Yeah.
I mean, 8.
8. Gotcha. Sorry.
No, it was later than
One
that.
more.
Yeah, one more. This one.
There we go.
So you start here.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's
that the teaching Zawa the Juparchi, Padi Lama Tabana, like Jason Chosiate, that they or
So.
the page 9, the Chasang the Jamdo Rinatiris, the Mambo Sago Yumari. The Mambo Sago Mari, that Sali Capsum Bumchik Sali Capsu, Nekon to Shuanaji. This you got in the page 10. Can you show the page 10? Sanjin Bonchija, Sanjina like you choose as a solar division. That day, any day, lot of symptom that day. They can see a lot of symptom Mina, Lama like Jason Chio, Sanji like Jason Chio, Chula Jason Chio, Gedo like Jason Chio, all days are yan to give this.
So the more extensive refuge becomes that ends on page 9. That's not the one to do prostrations with. Rather, they're the recitations that start on page 10 with Jangshu Yimpo Chiki Bar until I reach the essence of enlightenment. And Sanjay Namla Kyabsu Chi Chudang Jangshu Sempa Yi Solang Dejin Kyabsu Chi, which then continues, I take refuge in all the Buddhas, and likewise in the Dharma and in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. Those 4 lines of Tibetan or English are what you would use to make your prostrations with. And Rinpoche said if you can't remember that, you can use the other recitation that he was doing. Lama la Kyabsu Chio, Sanjay la Kyabsu Chio, Chu la Kyabsu Chio, Genan la Kyabsu Chio. I go for refuge in the Lama, I go for refuge in the Buddha, I go for refuge in the Dharma, I go for refuge in the Sangha. Rinpoche, indicate done degree.
Indicate no more than Poela Matun, indicate Tuna Kojunsi.
So you can also, recite it in English. Reciting it in English, then you're thinking of the meaning. The meaning is more apparent to your mind. So reciting it either in Tibetan or English. That latter way again would be in Tibetan, Lama la Kyabsu Chiwo, Sangye la Kyabsu Chiwo, Chu la Kyabsu Chiwo, Genden la Kyabsu Chiwo. And in English it would be, I go for refuge to the Lama, I go for refuge to the Buddhas, I go for refuge to the Dharma, I go for refuge to the Sangha.
Would you recommend doing the long refuge formula for like the first 7 or
21?
And then after that you just go into the
Yeah. Tate ngatu namjo tere chigi yore. Tambo te la ti namka ti page. Can you show the page? None. Yeah. Tate tinchi tawa the jibar padi nama. Tate tambo de nyesho tsaki sum ta churang lekal tayari. Churang tere tutsu yuna. Churang nyen kansang tutsu yuwa yina. Churang ke tambo ti refugee ti tate jiyate. Jiyapate. Te cha nyesho tsaki Any cha de, cha sum yung talate. Any chang sayate, any bum sa ni jotella. What in the chain into you?
So, if you like, you can recite the longer refuge 3, 7, 21 times. That would actually begin on the last word of the first line on page 8, where he says, "I and all sentient beings, limitless as the sky is vast, take refuge in the very embodiment of the essence of the body, speech, and mind, qualities, and activities, all the Buddhas, the 10 directions 3 times, the source of the 84,000 collections of Dharma, and sovereign and exalted Sangha. I take refuge in the glorious holy lamas, the kind root lama and lineage masters. I take refuge in all the idams and deities gathered in the mandala. I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the holy Dharma. I take refuge in all the noble Sangha. I take refuge in the assembly of Dakas, Dakinis, Dharmapalas, those who have the all-seeing eye of wisdom." That much, which is the extensive refuge. You can begin by doing it repeatedly 3, 7, 21 times before you go into actually making the prostrations with the shorter recitation.
Well, I thought you would say the long refuge formula and do a prostration, and then say the long refuge formula and do a prostration 3, 7, or 21. Is that not accurate?
Either way, you can do that,
yeah.
But you don't need to.
Yeah. The start the Zuboga presentation when they tanga sayate, the tone saki mariko, Lucas hard sayate say you get in page number 8 there.
And if you do combine prostrations with the longer recitation, you don't count those. You count only from the shorter recitation.
Yeah. The Yimbini Tangarang Samsula Namju Yang Tendishin, oh, Ngöndro Bum yes, it Bumji the Kaduchana, City Tankanda Chisan, the Tankata Kechimo, oh, the Bumji the Kaduchana Sana. Tankata Kechimori, Tingamandosing. Kechishu, some not on down there. Some not on the Yapo Putanji on it. Then they go to Shubanaji, and to choose the Yonsu Tama de Tankasaya Tang, the Marwa, Natu Kayasina, same Juju Tama. Same Juju Taji Yongo, the pin toyat is all good. Tankasaya de Zola Mazawachi, Nachiate, Yamni Zola Zoyat. Same Julapinic Tapshin Royat Zola Siat Kechimoris.
So sometimes people get a bit overwhelmed by this thought of 100,000, 400,000 things that I need to do. And but I really think that the numbers and the counting is not the most important thing. Quality over quantity. What's most important is the sincerity, the intention, the strong motivations that we do the practice with. As I said, the real transformation of our mind. The counting is not the most important, so don't get fixated on the numbers. Rather, think about doing it with the best way you can, with the most sincere, with the strongest intentions, the clearest intentions as you can.
Yeah. 10 minutes bread.
Okay. I have frustrated 200,000. 200. I competed with Rama Solomon, the mother, but 10 years ago.
Good job. Yeah. Yabori. Pay Yaboris. Haja Yaboris is Jampa.
Never says that's very good. It's very, very good.
Good job. Do what you're doing. Oh yeah, so
we'll take 10-15 minutes break now.
So namde damje si bani thomne nimbe danam phamse de jegan nan che balam chobaya se ben solen rowa sho. Yeah.
I had a little bit of an idea, yeah. Awesome.
yuk siya teke.
Sorry.
Oda teke any dorjes bu gomde ke choying de tende ji chadi yures.
So there, beginning on page 16, is the way of visualizing Vajrasattva for the practice. Above the crown of my head on the lotus and moon seat is Lama Vajrasattva, white in color and with ornaments. He has one face and two hands. His right hand holds a vajra and the left a bell. He sits cross-legged.
Tadeke choying de is dorjes bu choying de choji.
So that's the field for accumulation. In Tibetan it's called Soxing for Vajrasattva.
Tadeke tende tadeke choying de se any yugotini Lama dorjes mbara yin nam kan tada nyambe chubdun de dema chubdun 17th page. Lama dorjes mbara yin nam kan tada nyambe se de dirjin de thoda se de ma sowa de dorjen to ka dawte hong ta ye ba dirjus okol de da ta yin da bar churs de that dema chubdun de yoso jo ba chama de dorjes mba khorang ka gomde ka thoni dirjin be byang se ne ani kondi she ba na yi sa chali kap so rang go sum lunga yi sum go sum go dirjin ni dong ta ba dang 다 도지슨 뭐 곰데 실리캅스야 랑가 락바드 리지고니 득점 이동자 차창데 따바 베나 남주 네바다다 캔서든데 요노부 나데리든데 이나 아니 도지슨 뭐 곰데데 양데 드리셰데와 이나 아니 나차텔레 탄도야 던조보 던데 망보치 용건도시.
So on page 17, then we have the description of the practice of the pouring down of nectar, purification through the pouring of nectar. O Lama Vajrasattva, please clear away and purify all negative actions, obscurations, mistakes, and transgressions of myself and all sentient beings who are as limitless as space. Having made this request, a hung upon a moon disk appears in Vajrasattva's heart, surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra from which a stream of amrita flows. Falling from his form, it enters my body through the opening in the crown of my head. As my body fills, all my unskillful actions, obscurations, mistakes, and transgressions are purified. And Rinpoche then mentions that if one has sickness or even serious diseases such as cancer and does this practice intensively, there are many who have had spontaneous healing through this practice.
다시 나 mambo 다시 mambo 심하고 다 되게 이거더니 이제 얘기하대 온벤들 사도 사마야만은 빨아야 메들 사도 들마들은 놈에 봐서도 그러면 다들 이게 잡아대 이니 다들 산스크리트 토라 던지르이시 도용 오마라 가레리시르산이 디 난데라 아니 마차파 드마밀파 라마 도르지스마 감색기 아니 느바진 슬랍진 아니 치게 그 slap latine ngarang lu nga yisung ge drum yi dong sama de ni dai ho sia chi ge ta de ngoma de de chi ris je dan de sanskrit de chane be ba mang bo chi gen de de ka re yin ba shi da ha ko yo mar de yin be yin de de sung a ju sam lo da wa yin na ge chi mo ri do de lama dorji samba tam chai ki ani rigja ge chabda tam chai ki dorji samba slapjin nubajin kubye yishingai dani jin chike ani ngage ani kusong thugla ngage lunga yisula chik kusong thuju slap nano chi sia ngage tong homa ta dubachi sewa ina tinde chade yorisi.
So there is a lot to say about this practice, but going on with the mantra Vajrasattva Samaya Manapalaya and so on, it's there on page 18. This is the extensive mantra. It's in Sanskrit. Often Tibetans reciting this mantra don't really know the meaning of the Sanskrit words, but it is important to think about in this way, that, O Vajrasattva, you who are the Lord of all the families of Buddhas, who are so blessed and powerful, and endowed with samaya, the pure bonds with the Buddhas and Lamas, by way of being in the nature of the four kayas, the four bodies or four dimensions of a Buddha. Please grant your blessings to me to purify me of all sickness, negativity, and obscurations. So to think along those lines, it's important to have that kind of thoughts.
That any young, the last young, any. I don't know. I don't have the mala. Where's my mala? It's okay. Did you see? Yeah, I think I don't. On better Sato Samaya Manapala and better Sato Tinumba returned to me Baba Sudu Kayome Baba Subeja me Baba Anarato me Baba Sawasidim in the Sawakama Satame Tam Shirayan Korohon Haha Ho Bangam in Sawatanga Pitobama Samaya Sato better Sato Samaya Manapala and better Sato Tinumba return. That in the scene any you get Jabate any Nake any Timali Janone any Bumchi Sa. Same way, any chia the condition young Kondushiba Naji. The Drangati Kachimbo Marva, nature the same got on some of the Kachimbo and a gom jack jack. All the descent, and in Bumchi Drangati Telesago Juris.
So each time you say this mantra, you count one bead with your mala, thus counting the 100,000. But counting is not the most important thing. More important is the mental application, as I just mentioned.
Tateshe, any yutini, dubatela, benja sato hong siatiris, dubat.
And then the brief form of the mantra, there at the end of page 18, Om. And if you notice, does say benja sato hong.
Hong, benja sato hong. Om siateke, om siateke. Come de omsia de Rangi Janza, Madab Lunga Yisum de O Masum de Ja, Bejer Sato Siatic, Bejer Siatic, any Tombani say, Sato Siatic, Ninjichimose. Tangatu, Dorji Simba Siate, Lati Ngola, Tony Tang Sanchip, singing or Yemik the Lati, Yamnisin and Koranga Tujis Latte, that only Nimbo line the Tane. Dorje Siatic, Tombanice, Simba Siatic, Sancho Sense. Any Tesla Tang Yuris the Tane, that thing at you dripping Bella Dorjisima. The woman Dorjisima the Caricina, Sharsak and Simen Zindelic, Latte, some of Madame Jane, the woman latte, any Tombani down, and the Sancho Sim, Injimbo Teni, Yimbachilla Samotane. That is latte, Ngalani, Tony Nimbo Sancho Sink, Jangal Nanochi, Siachi. Hong Siateke, Mudrup Toshi, Slam Naro Chisia, or the nature Kokuris.
As you recite this short mantra, in this context, that first Om, you can think of that which is to be purified, which is your own body, speech, and mind. And then with Vajrasattva being the name of the deity, there's two parts to it, Vajra and Sattva. Now the Vajra represents emptiness, represents the realization of the ultimate nature of all phenomena, their selflessness. And the Sattva, which means the being or the great being, represents bodhicitta, great compassion, and the aspiration, the determination to free all beings from suffering. So that is the actual nature of Vajrasattva, a great being filled with compassion and bodhicitta for all beings, who has the realization of the ultimate nature of reality, the selflessness. And so even more important than thinking about the aspect that Vajrasattva appears in is to think of his nature of being a great altruistic being who realizes emptiness. And with the last Hung, you can think of that as being a request. Say, please bestow upon me these realizations of bodhicitta and emptiness.
Yeah. Lasso, Tuchina, and it the Yugotini, that tell it in the share, and it tongue sayate, you get Jabba the sa, and it you get Jabba the Chura to Yuna, turn chickenani, to the Ja, Nibja, Tong, Katisa to go natural to you what it is, and these are legit. On better side, 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 say at the Taka Jasakisa. And then you got in the twin the mouth, then all the chicken or is.
So as you're doing this practice for the preliminaries, you can in each session you can do the long mantra, say 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times, however much time you have to say it. And when you finish that which is called the 100-syllable mantra recitation, then recite the short mantra 100 times. And when you finish that, go on with the rest of the recitation of this part.
Gumbo Dana Mishimobaya Damsen Lenanga Yena among Gumbo Jimdo, or Jimaji to Jimbodan, Zola, Tozo, Yinaka, Tamsen, John, Yolo, the Ronido, so them just Yadaba, the Soro Dojisimba Dala, O Yonshu, Yadala Tempe, Nimi, Jersey. Tema La Yana.
And that rest of that recitation is, O protector, unknowingly and in ignorance I have gone against and violated my Samaya vows. Lama protector, please grant me refuge. O supreme Vajra holder, you who have mastery of the great compassion, Lord of beings, I take refuge in you. I confess all my violations of the root and branch vows of the body, speech, and mind. Grant your blessings to cleanse and purify all negative actions, obscurations, mistakes, and transgressions. Vajrasattva accepts my request, melts in delight, and merges with me. We become inseparable.
Oh, that take that Chiranchu, oh, Dorsengom dete, that the Shirikap so young, the Dorsengom de Ranging Gozo, Yagang, Ngöndro, Koran Gang and Roma Guachiti, Ngöndro Gang the Nimarati, the Karasa Lodo number Yendo, the Lodo number Yet, Samala, to Neabu Yoris. Any Lodo number Yenima, Jamdota, the Solomon Rodo Magwachi, any tea. Ada kora doji sembarang na mango tu yana dorsi gomde. Ini medal tu di medal rang go tu. Lama namjal tu di lama namjal rang go ma tu yana ndeke yuri. Ta ya tichu yu nang goni juglo ma tu yana ndeke yuri. Kale, ta ngoma churang ke jamdo sina anda ta te bamjik sa tsarwa. Te kale lulu chi cha chi ek tu, cha ni sum tu. Ini kale ma dela ma yung ndeke. Kare chi ndeke yuri isi.
Okay, so when you're doing this part of the practice, the 100-syllable mantra recitation and meditation with Vajrasattva, you can just recite this part. You don't need to recite the other parts of the practice. However, the contemplation on the Lodo Namashi, the four ways of reversing your inclinations, which are there at the very beginning, if you remember, before the refuge, where it says, first, this precious human birth is so favorable for the practice of Dharma, and so on. These four contemplations, you can recite those every time. I mean, those are definitely to be contemplated with every one of the preliminaries. But you don't have to recite the whole text when you're doing each part. You can just recite the part that's pertinent to that section, in this case, the Vajrasattva. If you want to, and you have time, you can recite the entire text each time, but you don't need to. You can just recite that part that you're doing.
Yeah. That take ni ba thing achu. Ani oh this. That's somebody. Ani mendadri do. Can you show the text the page 22?
So for the third one now, the offering of mandala.
Tadeke Dunjinam Kusulamatan Dunj of the Yundurumbaji, Yada Sanji Chuda Gindu Daran Kochi Yanti, Chujon Jamsala, so Conjola, Choji, Shinchota by Yupa Tongsia, that Tini Paro to the Yang Chojin Jindiba, Chojin Sandeba, Chojin to Tama Chibari, Mendaga Chojin, Jamdoka Chojin, any Lamanam Joko Chojin, Yijaka Chojin, yet Tama Chibari, Korang. Tambo jamdo ko choyin ji wa tina yin jin da sap tam nan de ge yuri si.
So for this third part now, which is the offering of the mandala, the field for accumulation, that visualization is just like the one that was used for refuge, and that same one can be used for all 4 of the preliminaries connected with Vajrasattva, this offering of the mandala, and then the Guru Yoga. That same visualization can be used. So the words of that, of here describing it here, before me in the middle of the sky are the gurus, in front are the yidams, to the right are the Buddhas, behind is the Dharma, and to the left are the Sangha, each surrounded by their own families. Below the level their seats are a sea of Dharma protectors. In the presence of this gathering of jewels, this supreme sacred field of merit. Okay. Good.
Tandi nani lama yedam khando se atisu korte nani ta lama te le lawri do lama te yedam te so le lawri do ta sanje chu gendun se atisu korte san chu se ade kandichi ge jabla chu sidu jabla chu kandichi ona sa ko yora ta chu se ade chu se ade nga chu juza ki chu da juzik chu se ni she ke juzik ji kam de ne juzik chu de sa ne juzik chu de la sungrap ke yige pot ligwam taga de jalo kanjo ta tinjo la so ba tinde ko ngole jok de le ke ni jalo la pot tinde mambo ji tsa yawa ji ta juzik sungrap ke chu juza ke de ho tambe ngoma ke chu de ngobo demba da lamje demba la ba de ngobo demba de la yak yurwa kam de juzik chu de comic tin chigla visualization mic tin chigla sam tang gwa yi de ta ne juzi ke chu sungrap de ngola de de ne pot mambo ji tsa yawa ji o chu sia de de sam tang go yuri.
And when you visualize this, it's pretty self-explanatory when it says the Buddhas, the Yidams, meditational deities, the Sangha. However, as for the Dharma, how you visualize that, it says behind is the Dharma. And so what that means is visualizing scriptures there in back of the central figure. And Dharma, in its actuality is the true paths and cessations. The two paths to the cessation of suffering and attainment of full happiness and enlightenment, and and that actual realization of the cessation of suffering and the attainment of full enlightenment. So the actual Dharma is that. It's that those true paths and cessations. The second, the third, and fourth are the 4 noble truths. But the way they're represented, and for the purposes of visualization, that which expresses those actual realizations and the path to the realization of Dharma is scriptures. So you visualize like stacks of scriptures there representing the Dharma behind the central figure.
Ta di yugutini ta medal thondu chane tende chi se ta ne tere medal tele phuji do ate ke ni medal chiran zola pension chi yo da jeta bebe lukso ke medal ta da ja ta pa yet zola online na chiran zo ko order ta nu na le lao sin de lamsang pe kong chung chung de ra ga do ani ne tere de la pension da chi se de ta de si medal te da o chi ta medal chi la te da o chi sa no tang the meda de nge de nge meda ji ya de ta shi ma kwa ji ya yo ni jiran zo pim chung de ji ting.
Okay, so my mandala that I've made is there on the altar. We don't need to take it down right now. You can order mandala sets, from Nepal and India. They're easy to get a hold of. So I'll just demonstrate it using this here.
Ta Mena Milikapse, Mena New na Yabo Yuris. Chuba Menda Sia, the Chick Chiranzo order le Yaja, the Chuba Ganjaya, Menda Chicta, Mother Drupa Menda Sia, Chick Ganjaya Chicache, Chick Killa offering mandats, Chuba Mendas, Menda Ni, the Nichi Yona Yabo Yuris.
So it's actually good to have 2 mandalas, one of which you do make and set on the altar of the practice or the accomplishment mandala. And then the second one, referred to as the offering mandala, is the one that you then actually use for what I'm demonstrating.
Tadila, Dambodilla, young Ombezebuma home. That Dambodilla, you get Java Tharchin, you get Japan Doni Capsule, Meda the Gun and do sit. I made on Chujuk Z de la Caragori city, then Chujuk Z de la Netang, Drutang, Sermatang, any loss upon Drunang Latang, any Tagana, Yutang, Surutang, Matekang, the Zutang, loss upon Rinpoche Rectang, loss upon Kandu, and Triggy, they tell a Dharma. Cupid we bought the Chilla. And it up in a to net and realize about the Nubugur. Then they say, and it a parakan and do it system. All business at Samaya Mother Balaya, better than nobody under Mebas, the Kayome Babas, Meba, and the Rado Mebas, the Sawakamas, the maid, the dumb Shiri uncle, home, ha, ho, banga. Sawatatan got a better member of the Baba Mahasamaya Sato, saying, do you get Jabba chicken only? Slowly, this year called listens. Ye call listen to send it on a Mendag told a dirt up by you jete. Swata yam the Tochia, the Rangus Hinganala, Newman the dribble, Newman would about the ships of Drupa, Pachaga Drupalas, the dim you don't chatang, Patas on Sabase. Yes, on induce a parcella, and this is called a listen saying it again. Ranju goes up with the dim you don't chatas on Sabase. Any Sato better Soto Kayo said, the Nitro Coraja, the Mebana Mebasi, Yiki Java Chickenani, Sella ye course sums, Nala Yunkur Sum core. Soto Kayo Mebasuja and Mebasa, the Middle Sakos and Metro, Ho Bangasota, but the Bama Hasamaya Sato, said that day this in Anitro Coraja, you take a Coratimasum, take it, and Lamata Yidang Kando Chujon Sanji that you gain to Chukolong to last of back and do a Trojan, the last of Tamjake, and you go on to get Salate, and the Rangi Jula Timson, Sambasin, Nana and the Chukorajan comes to Timasum City Capsule. Then they say Selacora Jali Capsule, Ranga goes on with the Dum, you don't chat on the task on Samba. All the Nichiris.
Then he can't lock up Nala Dread and the Orawa.
All Lawan and Drew, and news in Rich Sombatil, Yan and news in Yamda.
Any part Chirube Yamina Lugure.
Drew Logomari. Drew Nang Yadon and news is Segori.
No.
Take up the Logomari.
Then Lapa Yumpane do Zin Yoruba.
Lava Yuma and Drew Yongs alone at degree.
Notice. Okay, so you can, as for what you use to make this offering, it can be grain like rice and other grains. It can be jewels, coral, turquoise, and so on. And so you take some of that in your left hand with which you then hold the base, and then you also take some in your right hand. But just holding it in each hand, then what you do is you recite the 100-syllable mantra one time. For the first half of the 100-syllable mantra, you wipe your palm, your fist, holding that jewels or grain in your hand, around the edges of the base 3 times clockwise. And as you do that, you think that of being purified of all your negative karma, transgressions, of vows, of the obstacles to liberation and omniscience. So obstacles to liberation include attachment, aversion, ignorance, and then obstacles to omniscience include the appearance of things of being inherently existent and all the predispositions and imprints of those delusions. You visualize them all being cleared away from your own mind. And then with the second half of the 100-syllable mantra, you then do the same thing but in a counterclockwise direction around the edges of the base you're using. And at that time, you think of all of the blessings of the lamas, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, meditational deities, Dharma protectors, and so on, all entering your mind as you do that. But so the clockwise direction, With the first part, that's the counterclockwise. With the clockwise direction, you visualize being purified of all the negativity, and then with the second half of the 100-syllable mantra, again, 3 times counterclockwise, you visualize receiving all those blessings in your own mind.
That is any that mentor. The Jibatina, mentor sumchu subduma, subduma siati, the yonda pepakete shiguri. Tate is a rimboda any some not that to Satis Mandawachi Yuri. Tate Kechimboda mentor subdumate, Kechimboda chilla tsegame, Narangunena. The Yene people look so that they yaki dizane. That berg shoot the Jani Mayon chuchi in the Zane. Any Lumbo Rumbochi, Lambo Rumbochi, Tamcho Rumbochi, Siata, to Medaga Tola, you somebody, people shoot the Jalo is my own. Tate, Rodang to the cheddar, the Message, the Kechimbochilla, Tonkames, Namjo.
Okay, now in this extensive offering of the mandala, there are 37 heaps. And there's mentioning of the precious jewels, precious wheel, jewel, queen, minister, elephants, horse, and so on. This coming from India emulates the way of making a mandala. Came from India. Rinpoche says that personally I don't consider it extremely important. But anyway, in our Tibetan tradition, we do have this extensive mandala with 37 heaps.
That's all. That taking it Samala Magoachide. Page number 24, page 24, page 26. The last link. The part and it is Chatangdoa, the Sumcha subdued.
So looking at the extensive mandala, we don't need to go over it all here right now. So it's on page 27, the middle of the page, middle line, on page 27, where the extensive mandala that expresses those 37 objects, or represented by 37 heaps on the mandala, is completed.
Yeah, any that the Meda Sumcha subdued there, Meda Chicagan Yadu, Candice Yaguris, Bena, Shalim Papa Zabalina, Balanjo Santa Minisiate, that the directions in that Samate, the Chiranto Maubala, Gerke, when it is shilling to Payona, and in a Lapkins, that rain in the Lapkona. And in Tonga Mari, any Zumnana may do it, see what in Tonga Mari, Kechimbo that you rank winne, then Tonga mess, the day that I relation the Mendasum just subdued there, Mendachic Gan Shallow, Nubsan, Shallow, Nubsan Sancha, Kawakawala Ki, you make Kandasiku, go you meet then the Shidama Gochikins.
Okay, as for where you place the heaps representing each of these aspects or objects in the extensive mandala, I'm not going to explain that right now. As I said before, I don't think it's that important, but if to receive that, I'll do it for you individually in private, because to show you where you put it on the mandala plate, it's not easy to see in a group like this and over the people watching on Zoom. So I won't explain that right now, but in a private session with you, I can show you, where all these different heaps are placed to represent the precious mountain, the trees, the running cow, the precious wheel, and so on.
Yeah. That they any page 27, take nani. Any second length, Tinandoa, Tujindoa to the Jesus, Yinesinja, love the sorrows, Saji pictures of him at all, Rabli in the Jimba, Sadish the Metin Pavilion, Rokuna Dash in the Juba shows. That dairy, that Dumba Saya, Katang Saya de, Saji pictures of him at all, Rabli in the Jimba, Sadish in the Metin Pavilion, Rokuna Dash in the Juba shows. That Bunkatang Saya, the Sholokai. There is.
So as for the the 100,000 offerings of the mandala, the recitation you use for that is the one that begins with the third line in the middle of page 27, and Tibetan, the one that goes Saji Puchi Jishing Meto Tom Rira Lingji Nide Jampa Di Sanji Jing to Mikte Boy Dokun Nanda Jinla Chupa Shog, and ends there on page 27. Those 4 lines are what are recited in English. It's I anoint the earth with fragrant water, scatter flowers, and adorn it with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. Imagining this is Buddha field, I offer it so that all beings may enjoy this pure realm. So that's the part that you recite as you're making mandala offerings for preliminaries, as you're counting 100,000 offerings of the mandala.
Tate kanda chi gori sidi tane, ta chiranzo nu yimba chi nana, ndro yu nanda churang buju ge mandala mendar kanda chi yu na te nu yimba chi nana, tenda o chi nana, ta nu yimba chi ti nana ja, ni ti nana nu ta ndro ta ne ta mandala kare ona te she, ni te la ba ke ndisi sim, ni te tuma te ti shabla ndisi ja, mandala shala ja ni 사기 비주 속에 메도를 하려 진이데 진바다 산이시는 메도 바와연 고놈다 신도 주바죠 사기 비주 속에 메도를 하려 진이데 진바다 산이시는 메도 바와연 고놈다 신도 주바죠 다때 든데세네 카근데 라파라 장 아니 라파테게 텔루야데 어 든데세는 범직 장 로고 요리시 다때 레 라온다치 요 말이다 가이스네 담보 이게들 로라 생고리 니바니 라바큰 drollo gori sumbani khanani chik chol go yeri yibani damje sena samlong khogol lu nga yi sum yosu chokpa chama nyamrapsine ta tsuchile tende sin de le laonda chi yomar wasi
Any lakpa yan ye chord and yung chord yan some
lakpa yan tende sin ye ko yung ko to chi go mari ta te se chokse chi tende sin de pa yo any de la sha lo nup sang sa shar sine so ye 참지 사지 부주 속에 메도다 럽 린je 니데 짐바데 샬로 마다 럽 린je다 니마다 다와 니메세 샬로 소도 누상 상샤데 사마 린je 샬로 늪상 애니 니마다 다와 오다테 드리시 로고 요리시 루이 좀
So doing this offering of the mandala is complicated. There's a lot involved to learn, what you recite, what you're visualizing. What you do is you take your mala in your left hand with which you're holding the mandala base, and then you take some of your grain or jewels or whatever you're using for the heaps on the mandala plate in your right hand, and you place them Rinpoche, if you notice, he did a quick kind of clockwise and then counterclockwise, but basically then you're placing heaps which represent the central mountain, the Mount Meru, the 4 main continents in the 4 cardinal directions, sun and moon, and so a number of heaps like that. So keeping track of it, visualizing what you're doing, doing the recitation, it requires some quite a bit of kind of putting it all together.
Lasso, Tadeshe, Tadege, Sayate, Saji Pichusumida Rowling in the same Roku Namdashin Lachupasho, Dese, Tate Bumchik to the Sako.
So those 4 lines, as you make these offerings of the mandala, you repeat 100,000 times.
Tade Yugutini, Tate Man Samjand, subject to some Yubai, page 28. Subject to some Yubai, Sanjay Sanju Sumbada, Lamadoji, Loboda, Yala Zonkoda, to some Digi Malay, Legislativa, Legislativa, Sambadan to Miraji, the Milagum, to you, Yene Sinja, Lab the Sorrow, on Renamina, Pudamaka Sam, the Sara Samai, Homes. Tangarankin Nina, to take Kichimbo, children of you, Tanamju, Mendes of Duma, Tele Chang, that take Kichimbo, the chilla. There's some not Tawaina to hand it till Yabodwasi.
So when you complete that, then you continue with the recitation from the mandala, beginning on page 28, which Rinpoche just recited in the Tibetan, in the English, is to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions 3 times. to the gurus and Vajra masters, to the assembly of Yidams and their retinues, to all Buddhas of the 3 times without exception. With heartfelt devotion, I offer to all those above me 10 million, 100 million, a million of this universe, of Mount Meru and the 4 continents, all gathered in this single mandala. With thoughts of love and compassion, please accept my offering, and having accepted it, grant me your blessings. Om Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Parana Samaya Ahum.
The youth Taman done, Nivzi Mendoza Bonda Sajo on a party major, something you go out about some Namkada Yamado shows.
And Rinpoche said that he actually considers this part of the recitation very important. As he mentioned before, he didn't consider the offering of the 37th heap mandala as that important, but this part of the recitation he feels is very important, which you do at the completion of your mandala session practice. And then you go on with the next recitation. Having offered this excellent and pleasing mandala, may no obstacles arise on the path to enlightenment. May I realize the intentions of all the Buddhas of the 3 times, and neither wandering in samsara or resting in nirvana. May all beings as limitless as the sky be liberated.
Hola, so that the youth in the Tansaya thing,
Yankar dupa de Yorawa, Saji Puji Juji Meta Jean.
Oh, that they left door, that they left ya. Sahibu used to give me the rumbling in the sun. Rokundam Dashi the Chiba said, Tansaya, Telesan and take it, Gang Telesan and degree. That they inchi the top David that the Maya Yalido.
So if you notice, those same 4 lines for the short offering of the mandala are there at the starting on the beginning of page 30 as well. And whichever position you do that in is fine. You can do it before the other recitation, or you can also do it after. You can do your accumulation of the 100,000 at this point also. So whichever is more convenient or easier for you.
But the youth Kosovion, Lamatona, Sansa, the Genie, Dali Lomchu, Nasi, but Lamincho would have taught the Soros, Saja Chip would have taught the Soros. But they only Medan and Meda Yashuda in Arankuni, Kamakajundi, Peshakanani, Meda Yashut and Tokotosi.
So the next part of the recitation to the assembly of the gurus, the embodiment of the 3 kayas, I make outer, inner, and secret and ultimate offerings. Please accept my body, my possessions, and all phenomena, and grant me the supreme, unsurpassable accomplishment. Please grant me the accomplishment of Ma Mudra. Deni Chaksel Dang Chuching Lotus. So up to there, which in Tibetan finishes Chagya Chempo Mudru Tselduso. In English, please grant me the accomplishment of Ma Mudra. And Rinpoche said that this part of the recitation he actually considers as the most important of the mandala offering.
That Tuna Namju Samlotan do the Samlotan Sayashuri, Trangsa Sati de Sagoma, Trangsayate, Saji Puchusukimida, that they yondari de Sakuris.
So even so, it's not the one that you repeat 100,000 times. You repeat the Saji Puchi, those 4 lines to do the accumulation of 100,000.
Lasso, and this has about the Chuji about the Jisayra, so I graduate the Takijas about Tamji, Zoposan to Chimbong, Dajin Kanya, Dopa component, Roku Tony of the country to Toyin, Yudada, Ronyam, Yurus.
So then you complete it with the words, for the sake of all sentient beings, however little virtue I may have accumulated, I make prostrations, offerings, and confessions, rejoicing in merit. I request the Guru's the continuous teaching of the Dharma, and not to enter into nirvana. I dedicate whatever little virtue I have gathered toward... I'm sorry, wait a second. Okay. I dedicate whatever little virtue I have gathered toward the supreme enlightenment of all, having offered all the possessions of myself and others, limitless as the sky. All beings become filled with the 2 accumulations. The field of merit dissolves into light, merges with me, and we are inseparable. So that part, again, let's see. It begins with the 3rd part of the first line on page 31, which I skipped. For the sake of all sentient beings, however little... Oh, no, I did say that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's the last part you recite.
But the Munoge station Segorata, the Dangatsu, Turere Yula, Tambo Jamro, any Yugatela, any Yigata Mendartang, Takare in a tea Yugatela, Soying of Lato the Ma with the shun around the Timne, Rangalunga is Unani, Kosong to just Salab Shokson Sabasine, the Tamatela Yunga Yungodoa, or they some not I had to package Maurice.
So, as you see here, the field for accumulation dissolves into you at the conclusion, and that part is important to do with each of the different preliminary practices. At the conclusion of the refuge, it's done at the conclusion of the 100-syllable mantra. Here again, at the conclusion of the mandala offerings, you visualize that whole field for accumulation, the merit field, dissolving into light and merging into yourself. That's important to do at the completion of each one of these.
Lasso, that take Netrain Sam Telejana Yaksari think those Kainsina Lamanam Jorte, Karmakajun di Ketanga to Karmakajuke, Lama the pet Chimbo Salap Chimbo Sakayuri. Today the Tani Lamanam Jorte Latis Mambo da Chiuri. Today the Rempache Chasang the Tasamari, and Maumbalanga Chutu Jimakanani, any Lamanam Jortema Samja Jurise, and the terrain is Amnatil and Samjana Yasari think those.
So I think it's best if we conclude with this today. The fourth preliminary practice of the Guru Yoga is something that in our karma, our Kagyu tradition is considered very important, and it's thus it's pretty extensive the way it's explained, and we wouldn't finish that today. So I'd rather save that for our next session on the preliminaries, and I think it's best that we stop here for today.
Tangede Jubong Tony, Dorduchi Shuaina, Ngöndro Seate, Pemasi Zachimo, Tangonetan Petzachimo, Tange Tina Chuchi Nidachi, Yogodoangatsu, Ngöndro Bum Yek Ngöndola, Ngöndro Karendro Yuri, Lodonam Ngöndro. Ngöndro Bum Yek Ngöndola, Lodonam Ngöndro, Lodo Namje, Ngöndro Bumje Lejang, Lodonamji the Zachimo. And then Namja Jude Judy Yamni Sijo Lechang, Mundom Bumjet Zachimbo. Mundom Bumje Lechang, Mundo Lodo Namjet Zachimbo. Tati Nandan, Mundom Nahanidoa, Tate Masi Zachimbo. Tangone Tane, Kazachi, similar Juratang, Tambu Chu Seate, Juchitang, Chu Dharma Seate, Semka Tola, Sosola Yam Younger Toning, Ibanuachi, Nishiniwachi, Unit Tachi Zoguaina. And then Hundred Yamnisia, the Petzachimbo, Hachakechimbo, Rizabos, the Indutani, the Chiranchu, there is a count to tip, Mount Balatona, Yamina, Kondushiba Naji Chu, and in Uyaja, Mundro Sap, Song, Javakoma, Lama Mambo, Chicasong Yuri, that the currency Yamyongo Tony, currency Yamni Nang, Mundola and Yamni Nang, Ujila and Yamni Nang. And you man Yam Yongo Tony. Tang Muja Ledger Mundo the Tachi and Oxon, Yam Yongo Tony song Yaji Dama, or the child is.
So, by way of conclusion and summarizing, I want to again say that more important than the main practice is the preliminary practices. That the preliminary practice is more profound than the main practices. And so this goes, on the one hand, for the performance of the 400,000 practices of prostrations, 100-syllable mantra, mandala offering, and Guru Yoga, before the main practice of whatever is being done as the main practice. But it also goes for the preliminaries of those four thoughts which reverse one's inclinations. Which are preliminary to the 400,000 practices. And you can say the same thing, that more important than the 400,000 accumulation practices is the Lodo Namshi, the four thoughts which turn the mind. So there you could say that those are more profound. as far as what really brings about the transformation of your mind, it's not, the main practice is not the 400,000 recitations. It's those 4 thoughts about how precious human life is, death and impermanence, the natural law of karma, and then the suffering nature of samsara. This is what really transforms your mind. So in this way, there is really nothing that's more sacred, more precious, more profound than that very contemplation of the 4 thoughts which reverse one's natural attachments or inclinations. And this is something that has been said in the oral instructions of the masters of the lineage. This is what they've decided or felt based upon their experience. They've gone through an entire lifetime of practice, and this is what they have found. And it's what these oral instructions coming to us are about. It's what has been experienced by the great masters of the tradition. So I'd encourage you to remember that, and please practice in this way.
Oh, that's all. Oh, do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First of all, thank you, Rinpoche, for these wonderful teachings and the precious transmission. I've found in this text there's a fair number of terminology that's fairly nuanced. And as a Westerner, as a very novice student, I'm still not 100% clear on all of it. For example, even just the difference between Dharma protectors and yidams is still kind of fuzzy for me. And I don't want to get lost in the intellectualization of it, but I do find with my practice, when I come across a term that I don't really know, I feel like some of the energy I've been building dissipates. If we've come across terms like that, is it okay for us to just go to the internet and ask the AIs or what have you? Would you like us to come with those questions to you? Or do you have some other instruction for us on how to...
Okay, I understand now. Okay, ya tate pe yabo dos nga ke tingsang AI la yichi chike yos AI ke nga ke nin to tin mambo ji jurong ko dos ko tingsang AI te chugo so ni dharma to la pe chu tang ki mambo de zane koraya dharma practitioner da ji cha na ko tisi chu tisi cylinder ya de de zane chiran doba yo ina 아니 담보 AI라 기자티 양 유마 AI 기직 도반도 요아이나 아니 가서 냠럽신데 파스던데 세단들이 요리시.
So I find AI to be quite useful these days. I use it in my blog for translating what I've
because
written.
David Molk he said he not going to translate anymore for my blog. He said he's a very higher level than me now. That's why I asked the AI. Yeah, AI might become the translator. Yeah.
And so Rinpoche, so Rinpoche says, I have a lot of faith in AI these days, and I use it to translate my writing quite a bit. And so you can go ahead and do that, ask the questions, and if it clarifies things for you, very good. If you continue to have questions or doubts about it, you can come to me for clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With the mandala offering, the mandala that you make and the 3-level one and put on the altar before your practice,
mm-hmm.
After every practice, do you then dissolve that at the end of the practice and rebuild it next day?
Good questions, yeah, very good questions. That day, Korang, Tatangachu Drupamendra and Shubamendra senior. The Drupamendra Siatilla, Shobadilla, and it is in a mandala to this look, and it is Zajane, to this in the Zakasum, you are Basum, Tende you are ina, Nuya, your Jampa, Solo, Mandala Koran, Trigajit, Tende Sham. That day, Nima Takwart and the Sitwa in a Sarvaya, look, Nimba Maji, Rishi Tavaina, Soso Sunam Sakara, Mandala Sia, the Kale Kati Jamna, Soso Sunam de Sakuri, Jokati and Rosontana, Soso Sunam de Sakari. Kalsi Tindi Nima Tawarsi, Matanaya, Nima Sunsa, Nima Ngas, Nima Dunsa Gini, Timari Gioji and Yuris.
So this question, which was in reference to what was called the practice or the accomplishment mandala, which is the one that you place on your altar, it does have the 3 levels that it's offered with. You can get the whole set to make that offering, and you would make that mandala in say in the morning and place it on your altar, and then leave it there. And if you can take it down and then re-offer it every day, that's good. Every time you make a mandala offering, it creates positive energy, and it's good to do. But you also can leave it for, say, 3 days, 5 days, a week, and change it every so often like that. Also, that goes for the mandala that you make, that you place on your altar.
Yeah. Okay. Tanga Sarsong. Yeah, Tinning at Mona Mandogi. And it's around to Tammy Drink gave it out to Tangarina. Should the Dawchilla pay Gao you namjo. Mune Tane, should the Dawchilla Tangune Lodo Nam Jetang, Demba Jetang. The so-called shoot a pay Masita Tharchin Lapchimbo, Mune Chusi at the Riga. And it rang around in a Charanto and the Shejai Cocabra. And it pay Kawazambosoni, it's more than Mona Machigins.
So I'm going to make a dedication and prayer now here at the conclusion, which you please do also. And I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to give this kind of teaching on the preliminaries and the 4 thoughts which turn the mind, 4 noble truths. These teachings are those that I consider, very precious, and I feel very fortunate to be able to give them.
Tharchin Simjin Damje Lo Chusen Dowar Sinja Labdo Soro Chulamda Dowar Sinja Labdo Soro Lanturba Sevara Sinja Labdo Soro Turba Yishi Sinjawara Sinja Labdo So Daso Namje Chudam Temba Ye Chitara Samba Yibjin Duba Dan Nedoki Soba Dujibe So Nyavara Shivara Sinja Labdo So Pama Simji Tamje Dedam Denjura Jing Do Tamje Dado Tumbara Sanche Samba Kana So Yoba Teda Kunche Molanda Bai Sho Timbe Bajura Lama Shepe Tin Tinzin Jive Satin Yonga Cha Timbe Jimda Ngatang Yolaji Timba Yore Nebe Trashi Sho.
Would you like us to indicate Tone?
4,000 Gambo Bas to do it. You don't have that. It's okay.
Yeah, I think I do.
Oh yeah.
At least those 3 that we
Yeah, we have here. Okay, can you read it?
I've got it.
Here.
Just pulling it up on them.
1 second.
May all beings' minds turn towards the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. May the path be cleared of deception. May deception arise as innate wisdom. May difficulties be eliminated immediately. And may good conditions, lifespan, and wealth all increase. May all be auspicious for us to be together with friends, acting dharmically, and for our wishes to be fulfilled. May the precious view of Shunyata arise where it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it never decline, but continue to grow and flourish forevermore.
Tujiche. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Tujiche.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Samba.
Rinpoche.
Tujiche, Gose.
Tujiche.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
A great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Karten Rinpoche.
Tuchi na aja nice for in the
Em sung ju chambala Karten Tuji
Rinpoche, I have one question to Tibetan. What's a gosi? Gosi mean?
Gose.
Oh,
It means like blondie.
Oh, blondie.
Which he calls me, you know.
Blondie.
Okay, bye all.